CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric, mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Switch to stream with SABC Plus. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime. Zero subscription fees. Download SABC Plus on Android or iOS and watch the Betway Premier Soccer League, the English Premier League, and the Bundesliga live. You can also catch up with Uzalo, Skim Sam, Generations on demand and listen to your favorite radio stations live. Ukhozi, Umhlobo Wenene, Radio 2000 and 5FM, all for free. Switch to stream with SABC Plus now. No subscription fees. Stream anywhere, anytime with SABC Plus.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
You know the news cycle never fails you, do you? A couple of hours ago, after the weekend, you have a sense that it's been a pretty quiet Monday so far. And of course, this show, The National Pulse, is very driven by the biggest issues of the day as and when it happens, right? And then, something happens. And we hear about the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as South Africa's special envoy to the United States. And just like that, we've got a big issue to cover all throughout the next 3 hours. Now, that's not all we're going to talk about, of course, but it is a big issue, and there are many angles to that, and we will absolutely cover it. So here's the first things first. Let me just put this to you right away, of course. You heard about it. You heard now that we have this new special envoy. Just give me one word that reflects your reaction. What's your reaction? Just in one word. Don't give me 10 lines. One word. You can WhatsApp right away because text messages just work for this one. 0614 104 107. And then you could, we'll take your calls later on when we do 086 000 2032. You know there's nothing stopping you tweeting right away with your one word. Text us when you tweet, tag SFM Radio, tag myself, Ashraf Garda, use that hashtag, the National Pulse, and I would think the hashtag Mcebisi Jonas would well be appropriate as well for the day. So we'll cover that extensively. Sophie McQuena comes up later on. My name is Ashraf Garda. I trust you had a wonderful weekend. I can tell you now, walking into studios here, besides the Jonas story, there are two trends, okay? The one is, shame, man, Manchester United. And I promise you, I saw two guys with a Manchester United top walking into this, to the area around where our studios are set up. And the other one is like, Soweto Derby. Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs, and some debate about offside and who wasn't offside, and many others like, we don't care. We have a Soweto Derby. Those are the trends. Those are sporting trends. But we have a real sport in terms of the special envoy, which we'll talk about. First things first, however, let's talk about South Africa's political state of play. It's interesting because, last week I asked you this question. I said, if you could choose your own president from whichever party, it doesn't matter where, someone below 35, even if it's not linked to a political party, who would you choose? There were some interesting names, right? Now, why I say that? Because now we've got a situation where the Social Research Foundation has put together a political state of play survey, which is really, really interesting, and particularly so of interest would be around the position of what came out regarding the African National Congress and its president, and therefore the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's get more about it with Gabriel Macken, who's the director of research at the Social Research Foundation. Gabriel, appreciate your time. You're connected to the National Pulse.
Shrav?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Gabriel, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I certainly can. Okay, good to connect with you. Thanks for your time. Right. So there are some interesting things that came out of your survey, but let's start with perhaps the most important one, which is the ANC and its link or de-link to their incumbent president, Ramaphosa. Tell me about that.
Yes. So our data showed that the ANC has fallen quite significantly from the election. We had them polling at about 32%. And now that's with an increase, drastic increase in the number of kind of voters who are undecided. So that 32% is the only real change. And we were interested, though, in this survey that we were doing in following up a little bit more about maybe some of the figures inside of the GNU. And one of the things that we did, I think you probably are hinting at, is that we asked questions around, one, a motion of no confidence in Cyril Ramaphosa and the public support for that, and then two, a question over whether Cyril Ramaphosa should have resigned. And now when it comes to a motion of no confidence in Cyril Ramaphosa, the data splits essentially 50-50, but with slightly more than 50% leaning in favor of Cyril Ramaphosa resigning. And the only significant of a motion of no confidence, but the only significant constituency that is against a motion of no confidence in President Ramaphosa is the ANC. And now this presents a particularly interesting conundrum for the ANC, as it seems as though outside of the party, President Ramaphosa's favorability and his popularity is really starting to decline. And so he used to be a very, very popular figure across party lines, and he's now only a popular figure within the ANC, which means that he's no longer a draw card for getting new people into the party, but he is also holding the support that still exists inside of the party within that party. Because we asked a question after the support for a motion of no confidence, in which we said, if there was a motion of no confidence held and it was successful and there had to be an election, who would you then vote for? So the only thing that's different in this scenario is that President Ramaphosa is now, the person who's doing this survey needs to think that the ANC no longer has President Ramaphosa in charge. Mm-hmm. And under those conditions, the ANC drops as low as 21%. And so without Ramaphosa, they are in a bad shape. But keeping Ramaphosa in, it seems unlikely that they're going to be able to generate significant growth. And so there's a deep, deep conundrum that the ANC faces.
Okay, that is so interesting. So you're saying, if I can recollect, the last election we had, the general election was like, let's say ANC had 40%. You're saying the ANC would drop to 34, if I hear you correctly, if an election was held now. But without Ramaphosa, did you say it will drop to 20-something, right?
Well, 21% we have it on our turnout models, yes, okay. Without Ramaphosa.
So one of the conclusions that he's unable to grow new support, but without him, that the party would jettison a whole lot of other support, existing support as well. So it's a huge conundrum for the ANC. Right, so that's one, right? Did the same question get applied to other political parties? Meaning, perhaps you can give us a sense of, if we're saying ANC 34% and without Ramaphosa 21%, did that apply then to other political parties as well, with their leader and without their leader? I mean, John Steenhuisen, Julius Malema are just obvious names that come up immediately.
So we only did that exercise of imagining a scenario without the leader, with the ANC, because we were interested in the effect. Historically, the leader of the ANC has been a much more important figure than, say, for example, the leader of the DA. And why I can say that confidently is that when we do the favorability of the DA versus the favorability of its leaders, the DA as a brand, as a party, is always viewed more favorably than its leader, whereas the ANC has the reverse dynamic, where the ANC is always viewed less favorably than its leader is viewed. So when Ramaphosa's favorability in 2019 was around 60%, 66% even, the ANC's favorability was around 55-60%. Whereas now, if you look at, the favorability of somewhere like the DA, you'll look at about a 30-35% favorability. And when you look at John Steenhuisen's favorability, it's a 20%. So the leadership matters less when it comes to something like a DA. But what is interesting to note is that under the conditions in which the ANC doesn't have Cyril Ramaphosa, the DA grows to about 28%. The EFF grows up from 6% are now kind of normal numbers to about a 9%, and the MK party grows to 15%. But the biggest growth when President Ramaphosa drops out, according to our numbers, is in the number of voters who don't know who they're going to vote for. That would be about 20% of the electorate would be unable to be modeled. They don't know where they're going to go. And that 20% will define the exact election results.
Okay, and I take it, I know this is hypothetical because, you are placing it on an election that happens now as opposed to an actual local government election, which is not national, in a year's time.
Yes. So, the listeners should not think that what I'm telling them can apply directly to the local government elections. Next year, we will do much more work and cover kind of the individual metros and survey them so that we know exactly what's going on. But this is, at the moment, we're just thinking broad, big picture. The information is kind of only relevant insofar as you think that it might tell us something about the 2029 elections.
Okay, and then just lastly, very quickly, you spoke about the motion of no confidence vote that you put to the, let's call it the electorate. What came out of that?
So under those, so we asked two questions. We said, if the DA called for a motion of no confidence in President Ramaphosa because of the slow pace of reform, would you support or oppose this? And the data breaks about 50% in favor and about 45% against, with the balance not knowing which side they go for. But when you break it down, what you see is that only 24% of ANC voters support it, but when broken down by race, now 46% of black voters support it.
Okay.
And minority voters have much more support for it, and that was also borne out by something like, amongst the DA, about 67% of people were in support of a motion of no confidence in President Ramaphosa.
Okay.
And so you see that ANC opinion has moved away from the rest of the country. And I think this is a trend that will continue to play out as the ANC kind of looks internally for what it's going to do, and the rest of the country looks for a future where it realizes that the ANC is going to be one of several big parties.
Yeah. Well, point taken. Let's see. Therefore, to GNU or not to GNU, Gabriel McIntyre, appreciate your time. Director of Research at the Social Research Foundation. I would think that the survey should concern you, certainly the ANC, certainly Ramaphosa, and all the other political parties as well, because it does have this ripple effect or cascading effect one way or the other. Appreciate your time there. Right, comment from you. I welcome it. You know that. It's the National Pulse. I want to get a sense of what your pulse tells you. We'll chat to Sophie Mokoena up next about an appointment of the new special envoy to the USA.
Specsavers cares about your vision. Regular eye examinations can help detect several underlying health problems. Get tested today. Specsavers.
Hey Msansi, autumn may be here, but we're extending the sunshine on our blue sky offers at Ford. Get a new Everest XLT from only 942,000 Rand or just 9,999 per month when financed through Ford Credit, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. 10% deposit, primeless 5%, 40% residual. And remember, every blue sky offer comes standard with our Ford Family Promise. That's just 9,999 at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply.
The Toffees want to convert pressure to pleasure by claiming maximum points against the reigning champions.
To put Everton level, he certainly does. No mistake. Beautifully done by Iliman Ndiaye.
But the citizens are not interested in any outcome but victory.
And there's Grealish, and inside 2 minutes, City are in front. And Jack Grealish, his first Premier League.
This is the Premier League. Witness the mouth-watering clash between Everton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 19 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Well, you wouldn't want to pay more than you need for petrol, right? So why overpay for car insurance? Now, question is, switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Tyler, not to be confused with Tyler, the singer, but Tyler, a 25-year-old man is a real Outsurance client who saves an unbelievable 718 Rand a month on his 2021 Ford Figo 1.5. Is it time you get the real deal? Don't pay more. Switch and save today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Without Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, we've got Sophie Mokoena on the... Sophie is going to join. Yeah, Sophie Mokoena is with us, SABC News International Editor. Sophie, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse. On a significant day, I would think, isn't it?
It is quite significant when you look at what's happening globally, whether you're talking the global tension around the tariffs, or you're talking about the president today making an announcement that the former Deputy Finance Minister, Mcebisi Jonas, will be an envoy to U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, let's talk about that announcement. I want to get some sound from Vincent Magwenya, the president's spokesperson in the presidency. And this is what he said when he chatted to Sakina Kamwendo earlier on today.
As we stated in our communication, we have to look at issues of bilateral relations. We have to restore those sort of basic elements of the relationship. From then on, we have to look at issues of trade opportunities, bilateral trade between the two countries, and look at putting in place firm processes that will get us to a point where we are able to say we have successfully or sufficiently managed to reset the relationship and put it on a more stable footing than it currently is now.
Okay, and of course that conversation with Sakina Kamwendo confirms the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as South Africa's special envoy to the United States. Now, he's the former deputy minister of finance, in fact. What does all this mean? Sophie, firstly, let's talk about this special envoy. Does that mean he's the ambassador, or he's not the ambassador to replace the former ambassador, Ibrahim Patel?
He's
Ibrahim
not
Rasool, I should say,
replacing-
not Patel. I need to correct that because that could mean someone completely different.
No,
Ibrahim
it's
Rasool, yeah.
Rasool, you are correct. No, he is not replacing Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool. He is a special envoy. We've had many people who served in that capacity. Let's take, for an example, the South African Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, currently. He is President Ramaphosa's envoy to South Sudan, almost like a messenger, but with more assignment in terms of doing a particular job and communicating a message from the person who appointed an envoy. And therefore, it's not an ambassador, neither is he a high commissioner. He is an envoy, a person appointed by the president to do a specific work in relation to the relationship between South Africa and the United States of America. And you can see this is more of economic diplomacy, focusing on strengthening the relation or revising the relationship on issues that are related to trade and investment. So when you look at his background as a finance minister, you can understand why the president chose him, but also his experience generally. So he is not an ambassador, he is an envoy. At some point in time, President Ramaphosa appointed the former minister, Dr. Sidney Mufamadi, to do certain work as an envoy, much as he is his security advisor. But he gave him responsibility to go to the U.S. He did send him to Mozambique, you would recall, as an envoy. And the issues of Ukraine and Russia, he's part of that team working behind the scenes on behalf of the president. So that's the role of an envoy.
All right. So based upon what you've just told us then, what do you then make of the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas?
I think the president chose Mcebisi because of his standing in terms of how he is respected on issues that are related to being an ethical person. If you go back to the issues that are related to the state capture. But secondly, as a former finance minister, he used to attend and interact with many people around the world. As part of that team, you would recall that envoy and that task team that used to go around the world to look at opportunities and trade and investment, supported by also the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Treasury, Finance, working together. So I think it was based on that, because you'd recall that at some point in time, the late Minister of Finance worked with him very closely in terms of addressing issues of investors. So I think that's the reason he chose Mcebisi Jonas.
Okay, now you made the point he's not an ambassador. Do you then foresee that a separate person will still be confirmed? I know there's been mixed reports because it was not very clear in terms of his position. Do you see that happening as well?
Yes, but not now. As the president has pointed out when he spoke to the media a few weeks ago, and our engagement with DERCO also, when I spoke to the Minister of International Relations, even today I spoke to the DG asking about that process. That process is now between the president and the Minister of International Relations, but the president, I'm told, he is not going to rush and appoint an ambassador, because when you appoint a person, you want to appoint a person that will be able to deliver in terms of the mandate as an ambassador. And because of the challenges that Rasool had, you really have to apply your mind and really ensure that whoever you are going to appoint will be able to be accepted, but also have access to the administration in the United States of America, because the responsibility of the ambassador is to build a relationship with the country, South Africa, and the host country, United States of America. So that is still going to happen, but I'm told the president is not going to rush and appoint a person to be an ambassador.
Sophie, we're on to news time, but let me ask you one thing very quickly to get your quick response. So our colleague Sherwin Bryce Peace has just tweeted saying, Mcebisi Jonas, the new U.S. Special Envoy, delivered the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation annual lecture in November 2020, during which he referred to Donald Trump as a racist, homophobe, and narcissistic right-winger who took charge of the world's greatest economic and military powerhouse. Now, we'll get to the detail later. There's not enough time for that now, but accepting this, right, in terms of his appointment as a special envoy, does he have to still present his credentials, and can the U.S. then veto that or not?
He doesn't present his credentials. He's not a diplomat. He's not an ambassador. He's not a high commissioner.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. I think that's really very important. Sophie Mokoena, appreciate your time. Let's get to the news headlines. Just gone 3:32.
Thank you, Ashraf, on the news headlines on SAFM. I am Onda Lambana, and a very good afternoon. South African exporters are under pressure as the U.S. imposes a 30% tariff on key goods, a move that could hit sectors like citrus exports badly while threaten more than 30,000 jobs. The National Prosecuting Authority needs opening statement before the KwaZulu-Natal High Court in Pietermaritzburg says it will expose collusion between key figures that presided over the contested September 1967 inquest into the death of anti-apartheid activist Chief Albert Luthuli. And newly appointed U.S. Special Envoy Mcebisi Jonas referred to current U.S. President Donald Trump as a racist homophobe when delivering the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation's annual lecture in November 2020. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview is slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Kiluli's interchange, and on the N1 roadworks with traffic restrictions between Grasmere Plaza and the engine services. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Hammersdale, the N2 southbound a stationary truck after Umgeni Road, and the R602 is closed at section between Dundee and Ladysmith due to road subsidence issue. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the N7 Jakes Havel Drive northbound has a crash at Beaufort Circle, and Strand Road eastbound in Stickland slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
To me, I mentioned earlier on to say at the moment, I know there was a golf US Masters overnight, but the conversations coming here is Manchester United, what happened to them? And we've got a Soweto derby. I get a sense you're going to start with the Soweto derby.
Listen, I was feeling for you when I saw what happened to Manchester United.
Oh, okay. But I was looking forward to the Soweto derby, so I don't know why you're thinking about that club from Manchester where it rains the whole day.
Moving right along. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Let's start things off where Orlando Pirates remain on course to win their record third Nedbank Cup title in a row. And outgoing head coach Jose Rivero says that winning the successive final against arch rivals Kaizer Chiefs matters more than the two previous finals in this competition. Speaking to the media after watching his side brush aside Marumo Gallant's 1-0 at the Orlando Stadium yesterday, Rivero preferred not to be modest about their intentions for this final.
Right now, it matters, this one, the next one. The other ones, it's a memory right now. So we are in a sport and we continue involving in sport. We want to do more. So the record, it matters, not the record itself. It matters that we're not happy only going to the final and be there in the party and fireworks, and it's nice to be there, but whenever it's time to go, we're going with the intention to be competitive, to try to be better than the opponent, but it's not something, at least me personally, and I don't want to be like too modest. Like we are competitive, we care about what we achieve, but it's not something that you think all the time you are in the competition like, okay, it's the opportunity to get 3 in a row and we just want to do it again because it's our job. Actually, it's our, I'm not gonna say obligation to do it, but it's why we are here.
I mean, who would have thought that the final of the Nedbank Cup would be a Soweto derby more than anything? Who would have thought that Kaizer Chiefs would beat Mamelodi Sundowns? And Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that the goal scored by striker Ashley Dupree to send Chiefs to the final of the Nedbank Cup next month should have never stood. Chiefs come from a goal down to cancel midfielder Deborah Mokwena's stunning opener before halftime, with attackers Wandile Duba and Dupree ending the club's 10-year wait to reach a domestic cup final.
If you didn't so, go back and look at it because it's clear. So when we work in a country that doesn't have a VAR, that's what happens. So just go back, take the image, you have the images, get the image from the TV, and there's a team that loses this competition out of a mistake from the referee. I think we are being penalized enough all through the season regarding referee mistakes. I remember goals that we scored in games that we also didn't win away. You remember that game I spoke about. Peter scored more than one goal. And today we are out of the competition 5 minutes from the end or 4 minutes from the end in the goal that is offside.
And it got me thinking, Ashraf, as a fan, when your team wins and you knew without a doubt that it was an offside, it shouldn't have been a goal, do you still celebrate as if you had won it fairly?
You even celebrate more. People are so not objective when it comes to a sports club. It's sport. They just carry on like, I don't care. My team won.
Listen, Peter once said, you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you lose because it was unfair. Sometimes you win because it was unfair.
Absolutely.
Elsewhere, yeah. Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou slammed his side for conceding real poor goals as they performed below par again to be beaten by Wolves, who are below them in the Premier League. Now, Tottenham are now just 2 points ahead of 16th and 17th place in the Premier League, and Wolves were the club just above the drop zone before facing Spurs, but leapfrogged West Ham for 16th place in the 4-2 victory. Then moving right along to rugby, Bulls director of rugby Jake White was disappointed after their Challenge Cup campaign came to an end. This was after a 34-28 quarter-final defeat to Edinburgh at Hive Stadium. Zach Berger's yellow card in the 8th minute and Giannis Kirstensen banning early in the second half left the Bulls short-handed at crucial moments and proved costly. And White was critical of the errors but says that he's proud of the overall effort in the tournament.
You can't play against the international team, the caliber of players they have. And, we played with 14 men, and in that time we conceded 21 points. And, once you're 24/7 down, it makes it very, very difficult. But I am still very, very proud. At 31-7, we could have quite easily gone the other way. And you've seen how a lot of the teams, the back end of this competition, have blown other teams away. And to literally get the last player of the game turned over in the 22 is obviously something that I'm really happy about. But I must stress, and I'm obviously very disappointed because we came here with a group that I thought would be good enough to actually beat Edinburgh. So the boys a little bit disappointed.
And then Ashraf, before I leave, MVP of the weekend for today, it's very different. It's going to be MVP players of the weekend, and I'll tell you why. Their names are Gauta Mahlokwane, Karabo Moko, and Maxwell Ndou. They're basically cyclists, and they've captured the nation's attention with their efforts to cycle all the way from Limpopo to Cape Town. They've officially arrived, and basically their campaign is all about dedicated to raising awareness around gender-based violence and other social ills affecting South African communities. But most importantly, they're raising funds for their community bike club, which offers young people an alternative to crime and drugs.
And now they should get it, right?
Yeah, they
Fantastic.
literally in Cape Town now.
Well done to them. Just before I let you go, and here's the other champion that you didn't acknowledge because you want to give it to the cyclists, and that's your business.
Yeah.
Because it's your prerogative, right?
Yes.
That's your decision.
Yeah.
What's the one thing Man United have guaranteed to win this year? Rory McIlroy.
Of course.
Because he's this crazy Man United fanatic, but he won the US Masters.
Yeah.
And I told you the other day, I've watched less golf now since Tiger Woods sort of stepped out of the limelight, really. But McIlroy winning means that he's completed that whole, what's it called? The Grand Slam.
Yeah.
But this is the important part, right? To fund his golfing ambitions, McIlroy's parents took on extra jobs. Gary, or Jerry, he's Irish, worked 100 hours a week. He cleaned toilets and showers at a local sports club in the mornings, served as a bartender at the Hollywood Golf Club from 12 to 6 p.m., then returned to the sports club to work behind the bar in the evenings. Rosie, that's the mother, looked after Rory during the day and worked night shifts packaging rolls of tape at a 3M factory in Bangor in County Down. Due to their conflicting schedules, McIlroy's parents rarely saw each other during this period. Jerry later said, "I had no idea what else to do. I'm a working class man. We wanted to give our only child a chance." And then McIlroy, at the end, after he got his success, he bought his parents a home in 2009, and he said, "I'll never be able to repay Mum and Dad for what they did, but at least they know they'll never have to work another day." There we are, Rory McIlroy. What a champion.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
It's the catch of the season as our 3 madcap fishing fanatics are back, embarking on even a more exciting adventures across the globe. Get ready for bigger fish, bigger laughs, and more extreme destinations in a series packed with adrenaline-fueled fishing antics and plenty of friendly rivalry. Fishing Impossible Season 2, Fridays at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
When your business expands, it's time to look for the kind of space that'll offer it more than square meters on a plan. At Dube Tradeport, we're a place for high-value manufacturing, efficient air cargo logistics, and advanced future farming technology. Doesn't that sound like a place where your business can take shape? If so, move your business to Dube Tradeport and grow beyond potential.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right. I mean, the one thing you'll be aware of since the turn of the year, we certainly listened to you, and many people said, come on, we need to hear, we need to give up more of ourselves. So we want to get your fingers on the pulse, not just mine. What are you thinking right now? Let's get your thoughts, okay? On the range of issues, I did ask you, give me one word to describe the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas. So just give me one word. I'd love to know. But there's other comments, including the conversation I had early on with Gabriel Macken about the Social Research Foundation, where the ANC's votes, he says, will plummet if Ramaphosa is not there to 21%. In Bawana, in Mahikeng, go for it. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Asha.
Good afternoon indeed. It's Monday. What's your point?
You see ANC here. ANC should kick out DA and our President Cyril Ramaphosa. Because why? They're entertaining the regime change into our country. Because there's a regime change program that is coming here. By allowing Orania to take place here, they're inviting Palestinian situation to come to us. So we don't need a president that is weak like our president, because there's ANC should work with MK and EFF to fix the problem of the country, not what is happening now.
Okay, got that. I mean, it's something that I think has been raised before, but, you know, it's complex. You can't not have a foreign policy that, you know, and you can't always want to agree with other people. You have to have a clear plan about where you go as a country.
Because you cannot say you're working with the DA, which is going to
Good
Israel.
afternoon.
No.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
No, you cannot work with such people like that. They're going to Israel, and then what they're doing there is to attack us here, and we cannot entertain that.
Okay, and that's something that, as you know, was discussed even on just before the weekend. In Bawana, thanks for that call. Temba in Klebecha, hello.
Afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah.
Ashraf, first, let's start here. A week or two ago, I called it whether the ANC will stay with the DA as part of the GNU or not. I then said they will stay, and the ANC will drop the percentage point, the 0.5 percentage increase. The situation is well on its way there. And this one, Ashraf, the research fellow that came through in terms of the performance of the political parties, particularly the two outside their leaders, last week it came through in the media. And I made up my mind after thinking about it. One, the ANC has got only two horses that it can rely to, because the makeup of the electorate has changed now in the country.
True.
It has got Mcebisi Jonas, not taking from Jonas' interview with SABC reporter, but last week Mcebisi Jonas came into mind, and I concluded on him as being the president of the ANC possible for the ANC to garner more vote and at least unite the country going forward. The second person that it can rely on is the CAF president. And I know the president is kind of like working the plan now to bring, to profile the CAF president to come and take over the ANC. But it's not going to work, Ashraf, knowing the makeup of the ANC as the party now. Those two names do not have a chance. But the ANC, if it can realize that it's going to hit rock bottom and it's going to lose the country, it's going to plunge the whole revolutionary movement into chaos, it has to divorce the party from the state. This is how Mcebisi can succeed as the president.
Okay.
This is how the CAF president, Motsepe, can succeed as the president. And they must, after the ANC has taken that decision, they must amend the constitution. The president must appoint premiers directly. The president must appoint the emissaries for local government directly. That will give the president more power across the sphere of government.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a wonderful wish list if it's going to happen, but your point may be also accurate that who within parties are going to actually agree to that, effectively changing the way they do things, where a lot of the appointments come from branch upwards as opposed to any other way. But thanks for raising that position, Themba. Right, more. We go to, to Bedford View now in the east of Joburg, right? Glenn, go for it, Glenn. Hello.
My friend, good afternoon.
I'm very good indeed, my friend. Thank you for joining us. What's your point?
I'm going to be very quick. I would like to agree with your previous caller, the one who just dropped the phone now.
Yeah.
Both in Mcebisi Jonas and Motsepe, unfortunately, they don't have the numbers on the ground. In politics, it doesn't work that way. No matter how good your profile may be in business or internationally, but if you don't have the connection with the people on the ground, you will never win the numbers. Unfortunately, the ANC will fail dismally, even if it can put Motsepe or Jonas as the president. But to my point now of Jonas being appointed as an envoy to the U.S., I don't think Mcebisi is credible enough, Ashraf. Tell you why. Because we've got professionals in this country like Professor Friedman and all of them. Why couldn't the president look outside the ANC and just look at people who have the best interest of the country at heart and envoy them to the U.S. instead of taking one of his comrades?
But why would we think he does not have the best interest of the country at heart?
It doesn't, my friend, because if you remember his testimony at the Zando Commission, I mean, we were talking about hearsay, even my 11-year-old son, he cannot get into a car of someone he doesn't even know, and he gets into a car, he drives all the way through Joburg and goes to Bryanston, he leaves his bodyguards, behind. What kind of testimony is that? Doesn't make sense to you, my friend? Okay. That a deputy minister would get into a car, he doesn't know this person, he's never met this person. He gets into a car, he leaves his own car and his protection, and he drives to Bryanston to meet the coup. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay. So he sends someone like that to go and face Trump.
And turn down big money. And some may say that also doesn't make sense. But I'm not saying that. That would be wrong. That's my point. Anyway, okay, thank you for that. But I mean, I think the interesting part about this appointment is the point that because of his background as the former deputy minister of finance, and his background as the current chair of the MTN group, clearly there's someone with strong business leanings. Okay, and maybe there's a so he's not the ambassador. Let's get that right. He's a special envoy, which means he's got to do a quick fix really to pave the way for the ambassador to arrive, I think, in better conditions than what we have now. The question is, will he do just that? Meaning that there's one which is the diplomatic issue. Remember the issue of Israel and Palestine in the Middle East that has been spoken about by the U.S. The other is the domestic issue in South Africa. And the third part is fixing our economic relationships with the USA. So which one of the three is he primed to step in and do the job? Work that one out. I think it's pretty simple, isn't it? Younger, go for it. Hello.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, go for it, Younger. What's your point?
Yes, no, sir. I want to talk about the Minister of Communication, Usoli Malazi. With regard to CETA, I believe he issued a circular that government departments can go on their own, to procure information.
Yeah, it's something we
technology.
touched on last week. So what's your quick point? Only because we want a deadline. Just what's your quick point
Yes.
on that?
Yes, no, I think I don't know where he got the powers, because CETA, is an government institution under the parliamentary, legislation. And I mean, if you say departments must go on their own to procure ICT, I mean, that is risky when Ashraf, because
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
you
I'm
we are
glad-
talking about the information of citizens, and
I'm going to leave it
CETA
there.
is
We're just out of time. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there.
Bahlabani Bantwa and Abafana Bestende are both aware of the uphill towards the wrap-up of the season. They are searching for nothing but a win. Catch the exhilaration of Mzansi's football, Marumo Gallants versus Golden Arrows, on Saturday, 19 April at 2:30 p.m. Live streaming on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, what's your one word to describe the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as now South Africa's special envoy to the USA and not the ambassador? It could well be that he plays an ambassadorial role for as long as it takes, but he's not the actual ambassador. Right, I'd like to get your thoughts. In the meantime, let's talk about this important inquest into the deaths of two significant people in the South African political and human rights landscape. That we're talking about Chief Albert Luthuli and then the human rights lawyer Griffiths Mqange. Now, Kenny Mapanga, you're with us now, SABC News reporter. You've been covering that story. Understand some significant developments happened today. What can you tell us?
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners. So essentially, the NPA reopened those inquests into those two prominent anti-apartheid activists. We know that the Mqange inquest will continue in May. We know that there's some issues there that they need to finalize, but the inquest into the death of Chief Albert Luthuli is well underway in the KZN High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Just to remind the listeners, he passed away on the 21st of July 1967, and the reports that were given at the time would have been that he was struck by a train near the Gleadhouse station in Stanger, KwaZulu-Natal. In the subsequent inquest in September of 1967, which would have been conducted by the apartheid regime, concluded that Chief Luthuli died of a fractured skull and cerebral trauma, and that no criminal culpability could be found on the part of South African Railways or any individual. Of course, the family is skeptical of these findings and has brought, or rather made representations to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which brings us to this inquest that has been reopened today to establish the true facts and the events surrounding the death of Chief Albert Luthuli. Essentially, what the state is intending to do in this particular inquest is to provide scientific evidence that makes it improbable to reach the conclusion that Chief Luthuli was struck by a train and that was the cause of death, as found in the previous inquest, which is being contested now in this current fact-finding inquiry, because inquests are not criminal trials, but they are judicial inquiries that offer healing and closure to families, and then obviously offer the NPA several recommendations if they wish to take the matter forward. So far, there have been 2 witnesses of a list of 27 witnesses that will be called in this particular inquiry, along with the inspection and local that will take place regarding the events that took place at the actual location of that particular train. Some of those witnesses will include a locomotive driver and then experts that can speak to an incident of this nature and what injuries would be consistent with an incident of this nature. So far, just to quickly wrap up, Ashraf, what we have heard from Captain Khamanyane, who was allocated this case in 2019, that the original inquest record of 1967 doesn't include pictures of the crime scene or the post-mortem of Chief Albert Luthuli, which raises questions as to how did they reach the conclusion if they did not have that critical evidence. And the notes in the report of the post-mortem, the captain, that is Captain Kamanyane, the witness testifies that it indicates that these injuries recorded in that particular report are not consistent with that of a person who was struck by a train.
Okay. Well, there we are. We certainly will follow this story in the weeks and the months ahead. Appreciate your time, Kenny Mapanga, the SABC News reporter, covering that story. But now we know there's been postponements, and we'll certainly touch on that when those issues get reopened once again. Right. In the meantime, let's get your thoughts on, again, some of the biggest issues. Can you think at this point in time, beyond the appointment of now the former Deputy Minister of Finance, Mcebisi Jonas, as our special envoy, can you also think beyond that survey that said the ANC at this point in time, if an election would be held now, would drop to 30, 33, 34% and 21% without President Ramaphosa as its leader? Wow.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's get to some of your thoughts.
Ashraf Garda, good afternoon. Ashraf, one word, best choice. Nothing else, best choice. Mcebisi Jonas, best choice, can't be better. Thank you, he proved himself already. Thank you, this is Dudley from Gqeberha.
Okay, Dudley says, best choice. What do you say?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon. One word about the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas is unnecessary. Unnecessary. I think it was unnecessary to appoint him. Donald Trump is not interested in listening to South Africa. He's taking orders from Elon Musk. So no matter what we do, he'll never listen to us. Notorious Mabilane in Skagula Village, Jakonok.
I wonder who's being the notorious one here when you say unnecessary. So what do we do? Just ignore the USA completely, like break off diplomatic ties, or maybe better still appoint Elon Musk as our ambassador to the special envoy to the USA? We have to keep our lines open. We just absolutely have to.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, it's Lennon Khwedi here. You know, what Ramaphosa is doing now is playing into the hands of this man, Donald Trump's tricks. Because Donald Trump's want to actually attention, and the South African president and South African, this so-called envoy, is giving him the pride that he is seeking. Actually, they should have just leave him like that. We don't need America anymore. We are not Americans, we are South Africans. And if anything goes by, we need to start standing by our own and forgetting about all of these things that we are getting from outside of our country. Lennon.
Well, thanks for that, Lennon. But you see, if you don't need America anymore, you still have to have a phased, calling off of relations. You can't do it in one shot. I don't think that's tactically wise as a leader of a country. I wouldn't advise that to anybody, even if I don't like the American policies.
Good afternoon, Dr. Ashraf. Just for that tweet, Dr. Jonas is going to be chased out of the United States before he even lands there. They are already checking him out, and they are going to send him back home, which is going to be a whole lot of waste of money and taxpayers' money for them to go there. To do what? Donald Trump has already tweeted that we are killing people here, we are slaughtering people, we are taking farms. The man doesn't want to talk to us. Why are we forcing ourselves to him?
Okay, another one. Don't force yourself. Like, seriously, what I'm asking practically, so we don't force, what do we do? First of all, he's not the ambassador. He's the special envoy. Basically, he's the fixer of the problem. So what do we do as a country? Just step away completely and say, let's just WhatsApp each other from now on? I mean, practically, can you do that with any country in the world? I don't think so. Here's the news at, it's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
The Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories. 3 billion rand to be invested into port terminals and Easter Road safety campaign launched in Gauteng. For SAFM News, I am Ondilambana, and a very good day. Transnet Board Chair Andile Sangu says a 3 billion rand investment into port terminals and infrastructure upgrades will boost efficiency and help businesses absorb rising costs. This comes as South African exporters brace for tariffs imposed by the U.S. There are concerns local citrus growers could be hard hit. The sector employs 30,000 people. Sangu was speaking at the Port Elizabeth Container Terminal, where a new ship-to-shore crane was unveiled by Transport Minister Barbara Cressy.
Operating an environment that demands agility, efficiency and precision are non-negotiable. Transnet recognizes that reliability and improvement responsiveness are the foundation of mutually beneficial long-term partnerships, because every minute counts and delays can have profoundly negative consequences.
The National Prosecuting Authority, in its opening statement before the KwaZulu-Natal High Court in Pietermaritzburg, says it will expose collusion between key figures that presided over the contested September 1967 inquest into the death of anti-apartheid activist Chief Albert Luthuli. Official reports at the time suggested that he died soon after being struck by a goods train near Gladhouse Station at Stenga in KwaZulu-Natal. Senior State Advocate Nadil Dunya of the NPA, however, proposed a different version of events before the court.
Evidence shall be placed before your ladyship, which will expose collusion between the security police, district surgeons, pathologists, prosecutors and magistrates, including the magistrate that presided over the initial inquest on the 21st of September 1967.
South Africa is today hosting their second G20 Development Working Group 2025 meeting at Somerset West near Cape Town. The three-day meeting's main objective is to address global development challenges and poverty reduction by focusing on key areas like financing for development, social protection and global public goods. South Africa has identified 3 themes for this year's gathering as priorities for the event. They are solidarity, equality and sustainability. The Minister and the President are responsible for planning, monitoring and evaluation. Marupeni Ramokgopa is expected to officially open the meeting this afternoon. The Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport, together with the Premier Panyaza Lesufi, have officially launched the Easter Road Safety Campaign. This as the Easter season is characterized by high traffic volumes of road users driving to various holiday destinations. The activation is aimed at creating awareness of dangers posed by drunken driving, speeding, driver fatigue and the use of seat belts. Lesufi is calling on all road users to obey the rules of the law to ensure that fatal crashes are avoided.
The reason why we're here is that last year during December, we were the only province that decreased road fatalities with almost 25%. Actually, all provinces went high. We're the only province that went down. So we want to sustain and defend that, because we can go further than that 25%. And that's the reason why we are seeing us having these roadblocks. And I want to thank the MMCs that are working with us, especially the Johannesburg MMC and the MECs. We need to sustain this thing of ensuring that our roads should be a pleasure. They must not be where people pass on or die utilizing our infrastructure.
Newly appointed U.S. Special Envoy Mcebisi Jonas referred to current U.S. President Donald Trump as a racist homophobe when delivering the Hamid Kathrada Foundation's annual lecture in November 2020. His comments followed Joe Biden's election victory against Trump. Sharon Bryce-Pease reports that the comments could come back to haunt the presidency, who appointed Jonas to advance South Africa's diplomatic, trade and bilateral priorities and lead negotiations with the United States. Sharon Bryce-Pease reports.
Jonas said in that Kathrada lecture titled Towards an Agenda for Change, delivered in November 2020, that the US was undergoing a watershed moment after former President Joe Biden's victory in that year's presidential race against Donald Trump, who he referred to as a racist homophobe. He questioned how the world got into a situation where a narcissistic right-winger took charge of the world's greatest economic and military powerhouse, and that this was something that needed to be pondered on. His comments could complicate efforts to engage with US stakeholders, given the current political and diplomatic posture towards South Africa.
Recapping the top story, Transnet Board Chair Andile Sango says a 3 billion rand investment into port terminals and infrastructure upgrades will boost efficiency and help businesses absorb rising costs. I am Ondilambano for SAFM News, headlines at 4:30.
In your sports this hour, Chennai Super Kings win the toss and elect to bowl first against Lucknow's Super Giants. And also, Woods welcomes Rory McIlroy to golf's most exclusive club and Molokwane to contest for third term in Naples, South Africa top position. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 eastbound queuing towards Cleveland Road exit. The N1 northbound in Midrand has a crash after Allendale Road. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. And the N1 northbound in Pretoria has a stationary truck before Harsfontein Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale. The N2 northbound has a crash before Mgeni Road. And the N3 westbound queuing towards the M13 Paradise Valley Interchange. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The N7 Jakes Hudville Drive in Epping has a crash reported at Beaufort Circle, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
April is Freedom Month, a time to reflect, remember, and celebrate. At SAFM, we honor the journey of our nation and the resilience of its people. United in the defense of our freedom and democracy, we salute every voice that keeps the spirit of liberation alive. Stay tuned to SAFM, where the nation comes together. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So give it to me your one word to describe your reaction really on the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as the special envoy to the USA from South Africa. You can text us via WhatsApp 0614-104-107. You can also tweet us. Just take SAFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda. And later on, we'll take your calls, 086 000 2032. By the way, does that change? You probably heard it on the news now regarding the comments made, well, by Jonas about 5 years ago regarding Donald Trump specifically, where he effectively was very, very critical of the then president of the USA. Right, we will get further reaction from different stakeholders, including different political parties, as soon as they will actually get their story right in terms of their position. But let's for now get the thoughts of Save South Africa, and they have a position on the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas. Let's get the thoughts of Sydney Monachotla. Sydney, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to the listeners at home.
Thank you. Right. So, as the president of Save South Africa, first of all, let's start with this. Give me your one word to describe your feelings about the appointment of Jonas as the special envoy.
Look, as the South Africa Civil Movement, we welcome the appointment of Mr. Mcebisi Jonas as the special envoy to the United States of America. And we believe that with his experience and knowledge, he will bring to this role a vast experience, and particularly from his former role as the Deputy Minister of Finance. We believe that Mr. Jonas will definitely be able to mend diplomatic, trade and bilateral relations with the United State government.
Okay, so you talk about given his experience, do you think that's the single most important factor? And just keep in mind, he's not the ambassador, he's the special envoy, right? How then do you see his role playing out there?
Look, we believe that an experience is a it's a very important asset, and we believe that it will play a very critical role in this regard. Mr. Jonas has spent so much time in government and in different roles. And remember that in 2018, he was also appointed as one of the 4 presidential investment envoys to facilitate investment for South Africa. Therefore, and you know, it was a responsibility which they executed with distinction, and we believe that the same will apply here.
Okay.
That knowledge and experience.
What then do you see his role? Because if I can understand it, the USA has made sweeping issues or changes in policy around tariffs, not just for South Africa, but for many other countries in the world. They've threatened the end of AGOA for South Africa specifically. There's been funding cuts from a health perspective and others for many countries, including South Africa. And then specifically, Donald Trump has spoken, and others have alluded, including their international relations or Secretary of State, about South Africa's relationship with Palestine over Israel as a big issue for them. And lastly, our domestic issues regarding dealing with the so-called Afrikaner issue. Now, with all that in mind, what then do you think is the biggest challenge that Jonas faces that he must get right when he gets to the USA?
Look, I think as South Africa, we have expressed our dissatisfaction before regarding the silence of our president when Donald Trump was all over the show and making certain pronouncements. And our president, we believed at that point that our president did not respond with agility, and he remained silent when the diplomatic relations between the two nations were crumbling. And as a movement, we believe that should the president been agile and responded immediately to the issues which arisen at that time, the situation couldn't have escalated.
But I mean, don't you think very early on, from Trump's first pronouncements, our president at the State of the Nation address made the point that we will not be bullied? I mean, isn't that a response that took place? And there's been other responses every day, because it's very difficult to understand what's the right response. And you can't just tell him, go away. We don't want to talk to you.
That was our concern at that time, to say that our president, that there are means and channels of communication, diplomatic channels of communication between the two nations. Utilize those platforms rather than go into parliament and make a public speech and address a certain gathering and say you are not going to be bullied, you are not going to be bullied. That's not how you handle communication between the two nations. Therefore, we felt at that time that our president has failed in his role in order to maintain and keep the relationship, diplomatic relationship between the two nations. But however, we are saying that we appreciate that he was able to appoint a person of Mr. Jonas caliber, and we believe that here the president made a great move, because we need leaders with integrity. We don't need leaders who are so obsessed with crafty and self-aggrandizement. Okay. It is time that we rid our government of those people who are looking after themselves.
All right. Now, if you go back to the former ambassador to the USA, Ibrahim Rasool, he was very clear about his position regarding the USA even before he went to the USA. And then it was very clear about his position even when he was there, right? Now, by the very nature, when these appointments come up, people look at what people have said before. And now, Jonas has been quoted going back to a lecture he gave at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation annual lecture 5 years ago, in fact. And he, in that lecture, was very critical of Donald Trump, saying he's a racist, he's a homophobe, and a narcissistic right-winger. So those three comments stand out. Now, the purpose is not to debate whether he's right. That level of criticism of Donald Trump, I mean, how do you think the American president is going to receive that?
Yeah, the question is that when Mr. Jonas was making those utterances, he was talking from which position? The position of the country or his own opinion of Donald Trump? Now, in this instance, the president is going to represent the office of the president. He's going to represent the entire Republic of South Africa.
But we're talking about Donald Trump here. You see, we're not talking about me. We're talking about Donald Trump's response. What I'm concerned about is that isn't there danger, Donald Trump being what he is, and you saw what he did with the Ukrainian leader, right? He could actually send this envoy packing. It's like, I don't want you in my country. You're not even going to allowed to be landing here.
Look, what this envoy needs to avoid is the bullying from their counterparts, from the American government. And we've seen with what happened to the Ukrainian leader, and then that was it was unfortunate. But Mr. Jonas shouldn't allow that. And Mr. Trump cannot dictate from us as the government of South Africa whom to deploy in that role. You understand? And you need to understand that Mr. Jonas is representing the government of South Africa, and we have trust and confidence in it. So whatever that the message they are relaying to the U.S. government, you must know that it is representing.
But you see
that on behalf of our country.
Okay, but you see, Trump can't dictate who to appoint, but he can dictate whether he bothers wanting to engage the person, and if him and his administration decides not to engage with the person, I mean that's his prerogative, and he may just do that based upon his own what we see, completely erratic maverick track record. So why would we not expect that?
Look, we as South Africans, we have confidence in Mr. Jonas, and we believe that he's going to represent us well, and he needs to go to America and attempt to revive and rebuild the diplomatic relations. Now, if he's getting rejected by the U.S. government, let it be. We'll come back and give us a feedback as a country, and we'll take a position from there.
Okay, but I mean, but that would mean starting all over again. I mean, with hindsight, certainly, do you not think we should have researched his appointment a bit more before we decided to go ahead?
Look, we can't be a country or a nation which is afraid of Donald Trump, which is afraid to criticize Donald Trump. We must understand that people have a right to individual views, you understand. But what you need to be concerned about is the position of our government. And here our government has never made any utterances which we think that might negatively affect Mr. Donald Trump. You understand?
Okay.
So we need to respect it, that our government has always maintained the respect between the two nations, and our government has always been prepared to work together with the U.S. government.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Sydney Monakotla, the president of Save South Africa, their position, the Save South Africa civic movement, in fact, on the pronouncements of the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas. Now, just your thoughts on that point that I brought up, that in fact, Sherman Bryce Pease brought it up first to say he made these comments about the U.S. president, not about America, about the president directly 5 years ago. How telling is that? That means how significant would that be? Not so much whether he's right or wrong in the pronouncements, but how will Donald Trump internalize it? Now, Donald Trump being what he is, seriously, do you really expect him just to ignore it? And if he doesn't ignore it and he chooses to ignore the special envoy, then what? The question, therefore, is, have we thought this through well enough? I may not agree with Sydney Monakotla making the point. He said, well, then we'll just recall him and get another person. I mean, we don't have that sort of time, isn't it? So I don't know. I just want to get your thoughts on this one. Have we thought this through properly now in the light of what we've just uncovered in the last hour or so? It all is the Jonas factor. This is the National Pulse.
Meet Maria. Meet her family, the Ramirez. One wrong step and they will have you swimming with the fishes. Meet Amadeo, a trained lawyer and member of the rival business clan, the Mateus. The two fall in love, and Maria's dreams of a happily ever after change when Madeo is murdered at their wedding. Their daughter, Jo, despises her mother's humble beginnings and will do anything to steal all of Maria's fortune. This is the world of Sweet Diva. Airs weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, we'll get some of your further comments in a few minutes' time. In the meantime, the KZN Police Commissioner in Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, well, he's updated the public on policing efforts in that province. Why? Because, as you know, they get a huge influx of people getting to that province over the Easter holiday. So this is what he had to say.
What are we doing with their tax money? So we gather here today in trying to fulfill the mandate that we are given by the Constitution to make sure that the people and the inhabitants of the Republic feel safe at all times. That's why we felt that it is important for us to come here today so that you can appraise yourself as well as the public about the state of policing in KwaZulu-Natal. You all know that we have been giving a crime stats report on a quarterly basis. That's starting from the beginning of the financial year, which is the 1st of April, which ends at the end of March. But unfortunately, what we're going to brief you on is the state of policing for the first 9 months. Reason being, the stats of crime for the last quarter, the fourth quarter, has not been made public as yet by the minister. So therefore, we cannot engage on that. We'll be able to brief you once the minister is pronounced on that. The state has been audited and finalized and then made public. Only thereafter, we can be able to communicate. Just last week, we were briefing the legislature in KwaZulu-Natal with regard to the stats, the crime stats, and the state of policing in general that we have in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So what we have here today is just to appraise you about the state of policing in this province. The period we're going to cover, it's April up until December, as I said, which is a 9 months period. We are not showing you the picture as it's normally communicated to you, which is on a quarterly basis, but we are showing you an overall consolidation of what happened from the 1st of April last year until end of December, which is a 9 months period. As you can see, our crime that we've been tracking, 17 community reported crime that we've been tracking as a province. In order for us to have a long-term vision of where we're going, it's important for us to evaluate our performance over time so that we can plan properly. So that's why we are reflecting here the figures as you see, which figures will cover the period. Let me get a point here quickly. Oh, okay, no, I've messed up this presentation. The period that is going to cover, as I said. Okay, now I've got a pointer. The period that we're going to cover, as you can see, we are tracking April to December for the period of since 2020. So we have 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and 24. So that should give you an indication of how crime looks like in the province of KwaZulu-Natal as we are busy trying everything we can to try and reduce this level of crimes. So if we pay attention on most concerning, we talk about the total contact crimes that we have been registering in the province. If you look at during the COVID times, everyone always say, this has been an ideal situation that we want to have in the country during COVID, where liquor is not being sold in numbers and a lot of places of entertainment being restricted and so forth. Yeah, well, that has got a negative thing that it affects business, the growth of the country, but it has helped us in terms of reduction of crime. So when you look at the total figures on contact crime, in 2020, we're sitting at 65,685 cases that were registered. As you can see, bulk of them are coming as a result of assaults. So these assaults are most common when people gather and having some fun and they end up assaulting each other. So that, in terms of contact crime, remains the biggest contributor for us right across all these years. As you can see, we moved from a figure of 65,000 cases to 88,000 cases in this past financial year for the first 9 months. So that shows you the increase in terms of the number of contact crimes that have been registered in the province. Of course, this increase largely, as I said, is between assault, those two figures, 17,000 and 15,000 respectively in terms of common and the assault GPH. If you refer that to what we have at this present moment, there's 24,000 cases in relation to assault GPH and 22,000 cases in relation to assault common. They remain the biggest contributor in terms of overall conduct crime. Whilst the concerns in the main, in terms of our crime, we look at murder in general. In 2020, we recorded 3,501 cases in this province, and we are now at 4,278 cases. So from 2020, the graph, it shows if you compare 2020 and this past financial year, we have more incidents of murders as compared to what we had in 2020. But of course, you might say that there were a lot of restriction on people's movements in 2020, so the target was not there in the main, which is human beings. So this time around, the target is available. So when we compare, we look at other years also, not just in 2020 alone. So if you look at our peak in terms of murders, where in 2022, we started seeing a sharp increase in 2021, where we moved from 3,500 cases to 4,800, and it moved to 5,300 cases in 2022. And we then started seeing a decline of cases from 5,300 to 4,800, and it has gone down from 4,800 to 4,200. As we are counting, we have seen a reduction of 558 murder cases that have been registered in our province. So this is a positive.
All right, that was the voice of the KZN Police Commissioner in Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Well, he's been updating us on policing stories, efforts really in the build-up to this weekend. In fact, we've got a double long weekend coming up, isn't it? But all happens here in KZN province. Right, but I want to get your thoughts, so fingers on your pulse after this.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, lots of varied comments. And by the way, has that position changed regarding the pronouncements of Jonas 5 years ago?
Afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners of SAFM. Wow. It's a wow. Maydan Bramfisha. Thank you.
Right, simple. Wow. We can deduce from that what you think.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. One way to describe the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as a special envoy to USA is ecstatic. Ilim Makovele from Rotterdam. Bye-bye.
Okay, then we are ecstatic. Here's another quick one we can play, then I'll get to a call.
Good afternoon, Dad Ashraf. It's Weather Tracker here in Ceres, Western Cape. Dad Ashraf, is Mcebisi Jonas going to be the official ambassador, or is going to be the leading the convoy or whatever, the negotiating team, while the president is applying his mind? Are we still on that trajectory of applying our minds here?
Well, the answer is he's not going to be the ambassador. That much we can say. And a special envoy is really a fixer. I won't say quick fixer, but a fixer to try and sort out things before to try and change the position of a country's relationship with another or elsewhere. So he's not the ambassador. He could lead the way or pave the way for a peaceful transition to an ambassador sometime down the line. Right, Mastermind in Mpumalanga, go for it. Hello, Mastermind.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the listeners as well.
Thank you.
No, I want to just comment about this new stories of Mr. Wiltshole and Mr. Mkhize that they're reopening the investigation for them. But as I understand clearly, these three people for Mr. Mkhize, they have come to the Truth and Reconciliation, and they have been telling all their stories, and I know the people of the Mr. Mkhize, the families have accepted that, the first one. Now, it seems maybe the new families are coming with the need for the new reopening of this investigation. But if I understand, Mr. Ashraf, there are many also people who are having such the same, experiencing the same as these leaders of the ANC, they taking care of them, to take the investigation. But there are other people out there who are also having the same. Now their concern is so much because it seems they don't. The leaders of the ANC currently, they don't care for them. Instead, they're just looking for the leaders only. But there are many. I can also put it, the parties that they were participating in the freedom of this country, such as Black Consciousness Movement of Baba Steve Biko.
Yeah, but I mean, that is why it's difficult to say right now. You know what I'm saying? I know you said they appeared before. It's very difficult to say what may come up. I think there is a need for an inquest or re-inquest on this issue.
Yeah, this inquest. Yeah. So that's what Mr. Ashraf. Now also, this they're not now making these families of also Mr. Big, as I say, don't putting them front so that they can remember them. They put only the leaders of the ANC as like it's them only who have.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
So much,
we don't know. Thank you for that. Well, they don't just call you mastermind for nothing. Point taken there. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, police say they have arrested a second suspect in connection with the fatal shooting of a 50-year-old man at Wynberg Magistrate Court in Cape Town last Tuesday. The case of a 35-year-old woman linked to the fatal shooting at the Wynberg Magistrate Court has been postponed to the 23rd of this month for bail application. And presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says Mcebisi Jonas's appointment is aimed at accelerating the improvement in the engagement between the South Africa and United States. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Gregory Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria queuing towards Rigel Avenue, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. In KZN, the M7 St. John's Avenue queuing through central Pinetown, the N2 northbound and earlier crash before Mgweni Road has been cleared, and the N2 southbound has a stationary truck after the M41 gateway exit. Then there's a crash reported before Rigel off-ramp direction Menlyn, causing some serious delays from Botha Avenue. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound queuing towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway, the M3 southbound slow moving through Bishop's Court, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Well, if this was Afrikaans, we'll say we're talking netball, but we are talking netball.
Yes, we are. Netball South Africa President Cecilia Molokwane will run for a third term as she approaches her final year in office. The NSA board election set for October next year will see Molokwane once again vying for top position in South African netball this year. Actually, it's October this year, not next year. Now, Molokwane has set her sights on 2025 to professionalize the sport in South Africa. Meanwhile, Baby Spa Proteas captain Poppy is excited to play in the 2025 Telkom Netball League as part of the preparations for this year's Youth Netball World Cup in Gibraltar. Now, Poppy says that she will not be representing the Gauteng Jaguars this year, as she's expected to lead the nation under-21 team in the elite tournament. And she says that this opportunity will help the team reinforce as a unit ahead of the big task in September.
I'm very excited for this opportunity to be able to play in the Telkom Netball League 2025 as part of the Baby Spa Proteas. We need to just come together as a team and come together as a unit and learn how to play together in a very tough competition that we're going into with the senior ladies in the Telkom Netball League, and just grow together and get the BMT in preparation for the Netball World Youth Cup coming up in September.
In rugby, coach Frans Steyn says that Dwayne Vermeulen's visit to the Cheetahs this week is a huge opportunity for the players to learn from the Bok legend and impress Rassie Erasmus. Part of Erasmus' backroom staff, Vermeulen's visit forms part of his coaching role across SA Rugby's national teams, where he travels to unions countrywide, helping players refine specific aspects of their game. It also comes at an opportune moment for Steyn's coaching development. The former Bok player took the director of rugby position at the Cheetahs last year before stepping into his first head coaching role. In football, with Royal AM's fate in the Premier Soccer League now decided, clubs battling relegation can breathe a sigh of relief, with only the 15th place team falling into the playoffs. Now, Marumo Gallants have so far collected 10 points from a possible 18, jumping to 12th spot on the log. But Gallants head coach Abdeslam Wadu says that they need at least 2 more wins to be safe.
We are breathing a little bit because we were on the grill, but we are not safe because you can see that Cape Town, Supersport, all these teams, they are in the same pocket, 2-3 points, and it's so quick. I think we are going to rest, but quickly we are going to work because we are not safe. We can breathe a little bit, but the next week against Golden Arrows, that looking for points as well, will not be easy games with the new coach. So we still focus on that, and the work is not finished. Maybe we need, as the what happened with the Royal AM. Now they are out of the competition. So all the points, all the teams that played against them, they take off the point. We need still, I think, 2 wins to be safe. But it's not finished.
Still staying with football, Luka Modric is set to become new minority owner at Swansea. Modric will become one of the owners of the championship club as the deal has been agreed, and this will not affect his pro career as he wants to continue playing for Real Madrid again, as reported last month. In motorsport, Jorge Martin will remain in hospital under observation for several days. This is after fracturing 6 ribs during a crash at the Qatar GP. Now, Martin underwent a CT scan that showed an increase in the pneumothorax, which will make it necessary for him to place a drainage in aspiration. Now, this was the Spaniard's first race weekend of the season after missing the first 3 of the year due to a preseason training injury. Then in golf, Tiger Woods has welcomed Rory McIlroy to golf's most exclusive club after his dramatic victory in the Masters. Now, McIlroy finally joined a select club of just 6 golfers to achieve the career Grand Slam, and Woods was saying that completing the Grand Slam at Augusta is something special, that his determination during this round and the entire journey has shown through, and now he's part of history. And Woods was saying he's very proud of him. And Ashraf, I mean, with you mentioning what you mentioned with regards to the parents,
family,
and the sacrifices they made after his win, McIlroy was saying, I would like to say to any young girl or boy to keep believing. I literally made my dreams come true. So if you work hard enough, you can achieve anything.
And, that's the type of, can I call it champion thinking that we all have to adopt. And sometimes we don't. We say, I got no chance.
Yeah. Always believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams.
Wonderful
But before
story.
I go, there's a voice note from one of our listeners.
All right.
Hi, Ashraf. How's Dumi? And the other thing is that one of those boys actually works for ShopRite. Please find out more information about those 3 boys. Let us hear about them. As to me, I think we deserve to know more about those young boys.
Okay, I'm actually going to try to get those 3 cyclists on air tomorrow. And they, our favorite listener saying actually one of them works at ShopRite. What an inspiring story.
Did they finish their thing in 60 minutes? I'm just checking.
Not in 60 minutes, in days. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to those facts and figures. We're going to connect with Paswane Mpatlele in just a moment or so. Lots of comment, predictably, that we have. Let me just see if I can sort it out. I'm just checking with Keys if I can get the go-ahead to do just that. Yeah, I think they are. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Just want to bring up Ronaldo House, where the ANC and everyone demanded that he be fired and de-elected and everything like that because racist rants that he made. And now Mr. Jonas is appointed as an attaché to the USA after what he said about Donald Trump. I think Cyril Ramaphosa's mind is not on his job and he should actually resign. Mark from Cape Town.
Thanks, Mark. But how would you say he was racist in those comments? Did you actually get the transcript of what he actually said? Can you equate the two? Think about it. I mean, one is the former deputy president, a deputy minister of finance of the country, and the other is Ronaldo House. Just making the point. Paswane Mpatlele is now with us, senior accounts manager at Markway Fund Managers. Let's get connected with local and global markets. Paswane?
Definitely, after a week last week where we saw chaos with tariffs on and clarity with them off, we start off the week with some positivity. We see that China and the US did not give each other any hassle. We actually got good data out of China with the exports greater than expected, while imports eased, reflecting that a lot of businesses were getting their goods ready in line of these tariffs. Meanwhile, the U.S. indicated the development that they would exempt the U.S. consumer tech products, we're talking electronics, computers. They're basically trying to protect that tech sector that has been doing well for them. It has provided some sentiment because when you look at those next 7 stocks, actually 5 out of the 7 are affected. So we exclude Netflix, we exclude Alphabet, the others are affected, and that's what's keeping the market gains higher. Locally, we are seeing the development that there is a possibility of that hike getting off the table, but it's still in question whether it will come into fruition. But current pricing reflecting our discretionary stocks such as our retailers and our banks doing well, they are hoping hopes that it might come into play, where we still face a VIX level that shows fear of over 30 and reflects concern of growth is still on the table. We could even see such opportunities like these as exit liquidity that people are trying to find. When we also look at dollar, it's still below 100, showing that it's weakness. Yields have shown some bids that are getting down, and we're seeing the yields coming down, seeing some favor for those U.S. assets. Meanwhile, when you look at the likes of gold, it is at $3,202, down 1% after a 6% jump last week. Oil is still weak, rebounding. It's still at $65.10. Bitcoin is not showing any direction yet, but it's building a lot of momentum, sitting at that 85,000. And if passes past 89, we might see it break out. Generally, when you look at equities locally, we are up 2%, with the major gains from our financials 4% and industrial 2.8%. Resource sectors under pressure with those commodity prices like gold down. We're seeing the likes of U.S. counters, they opened in the green, over 1% across the board. Europe is also up over 2% across the board from Dow to the FTSE. And this is just showing that there is a positivity to start the week. Looking at the currency when it closed down, rand against the dollar is relatively better, below that 18 rand level, 18.85. Rand against the euro, 21.48, and rand against the pound, 24.82.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that connection. We'll do it again tomorrow, Paswane. Thanks for that. Right, we've got an issue that that really is a big cause for concern about monies received to students via NSFAS, that sort of, let's call it an overpayment. We'll get the story in a moment.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So, there's different categories, I understand, of, students at university receiving some sort of funding and support from NSFAS. It could be, to their tuition fees. It could actually be for their daily stipend in terms of, food. It could also be for the rental of a property or a flat in this case if they're living away from home. And, the way NSFAS works, some of it gets paid directly to, let's call it, the landlord, if that were the case. But there's been an issue that's now surfaced around, I'm going to call it overpayment to the students. That is a huge cause for concern about what happened and what may happen next. Ishmael Menisi is with us, the NSFAS spokesperson. Ishmael, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Thank you. Give us some context. What actually happened, firstly?
Ashraf, the payments that were made in the month of March to the TVET College students were amounting to 10,800, which was designated for accommodation. All in all, the students received 13,800. Now, this 10,800 is the amount that students are supposed to release to accommodation providers. Now, this is what happened, because ordinarily, NSFAS pays the accommodation providers directly for student accommodation, and all the other allowances are then paid to the colleges or to the universities. Now, in this instance, NSFAS, in making of this payment, did not at the time receive data that indicates whether students qualify for accredited accommodation or transport. And as a result, we therefore advance this amount so that students can then pay the landlords, those who are staying in accredited accommodation. And those that are not could then utilize that money for transportation. And NSFAS made this decision based on the fact that already allowances to TVET College students were not paid since the beginning of the year, and we have to make this payment in order to ensure that students are not left wanting. They would have accommodation, and they will still have money for transport, including the allowances that needed to be paid. This is what happened in as far as this payment is concerned.
All right. So now that's what's happened. So that means students who would have received, as you said, I think 13,800 in total, but the money wouldn't all come to them. It'll go to the landlord. They'll get some part of it. All the monies has got to individual students, the whole lot. What has happened? How do you fix that?
Well, we have requested TVET colleges to communicate this to the affected students, those that they know that are within accredited accommodations, for them to pay over that money to the accommodation providers. This is to avoid them being evicted, or for NSFAS to deduct future allowances from students. So we're asking our students to be responsible as adults and make sure that they are not doing anything that will compromise their stay within accommodation establishments.
Interesting, you're speaking to the TVET colleges. I mean, do you not have access to the students directly? Because, I mean, am I right you saying you effectively want the money back so that you can then pay the property owners, the landlords? I mean, that's what you really want, isn't it? Are you not able to connect with the students directly?
No, we don't want the money back. We want the money to be paid directly to landlords for students who are staying in the accommodation establishment. They have contracts that they've signed with landlords, and as NSFAS, we provided guarantee that landlords will be paid. And this is the reason why NSFAS is making this call, that students must advance that money to the landlords to avoid unnecessary inconveniences to the academic year.
Okay, I get that. So what I mean when I meant that you want the money back, it means just to then shift the payment to its actual rightful owner, in this case here, but you're now asking the students to pay directly. So are they paying directly at this point in time?
Well, we have an arrangement with our TVET colleges where we pay their allowances through our banker, that is their living allowances, and we pay accommodation providers directly into their bank accounts. But as I've given this scenario, that what happened with this payment is that at the time of the processing of this payment, the lists that differentiates the allowances were not as yet received from TVET colleges, and we did not want to delay the payments further because it had a negative impact on students, especially in their accommodation establishments, and also for them to have to get their living allowances. You might have observed that since the beginning of the year, we might had instances where there were minor protests and also indications of evictions by landlords. And as NSFAS, we had to call all the stakeholders, talk to them about any negativity that would that could lead to the academic calendar or year being delayed if there were protests or if there were evictions. And as a result, we had to be proactive in agreement with our TVET colleges that we will advance these allowances so that there is stability within the TVET college sector.
And in advancing those allowances, that's where the error occurred, right? What then are, so my point is, again, just to get clarity, so are the students now paying the monies over to the landlords, and if they're not, then what happens next?
There are two scenarios here. If they don't comply to this call, there is a potential evictions that might take place because landlords would not be paid, and we don't anticipate landlords accepting that their allowance, their payments, which has been released by NSFAS, not having them receive them. So they would obviously act as a result of that. But secondly, the option of deducting future allowances of students, we cannot overrule it. Should it happen that these allowances are not paid by students, and if we go to the second option again, the challenge is that it means students will be underpaid because of who will have to take these allowances from their living expenses, and that might inconvenience them going forward.
I mean, have you had any feedback about students, potentially, and I need to use this word in inverted commas, being wonderfully surprised at this bonus and therefore use the money for other urgent needs that they've had?
Well, we have not received any correspondences from the leadership of the students, from the colleges themselves, that there is denial by students to actually advance this money. We communicated to the colleges last week, Thursday, and also issued a statement over the weekend to the students as well, that they must assist by heeding to the call by TVET colleges and also by NSFAS. So to this extent, we are confident that our students will do the right thing and pass that money where it's supposed to be.
Okay. Just lastly, just two things before I let you go. One is, what's the money factor in all of this? That means how much money now at this point in time is in the wrong hands?
Well, at the moment, the data that will come from TVET colleges, because we have requested them to give us the comprehensive list, and we are working with our service providers to make sure that we quantify the list that will be coming from TVET colleges to know exactly the amount of money that's supposed to be going to landlords and the one that's supposed to be going to transport. So we are waiting for that comprehensive report that will give us the actual figures.
And so you don't have that now. But how difficult would it be, assuming there's 1,000 students that should have received 3,000, so they all go 10,000, and it's 1,000 times 10,000. Wouldn't be that difficult, would it?
Well, as I'm saying, the reason that the money was advanced without making the distinction is because a comprehensive list, which is what is very, very much important for NSFAS to know exactly where students are residing and which type of allowances, particularly between transport and accommodation, would it be. As a result of the lack of that list and the delays that has been in the submission of that list from colleges, we are seated with this problem. And hence, this is the list that will make us to quantify the extent of the problem and how it can be resolved.
All right. And then in terms of what actually happened, you explained the rush, right? You know, does it mean that the person who pressed send would get wrapped over the knuckles or something less or more severe than that?
Well, NSFAS made that decision based on the facts that were on the table and based on the conveniences that would be to students. So at the moment, we would not hold an NSFAS employee directly responsible for this because this was a decision that was taken to deal particularly with the delays that has been there before. However, we will look at all the facts when we get the list to determine where the fault lines have been, and also, the issue that relates to data that NSFAS has to receive from institutions for it to make the decision has been an ongoing problem within the sector. But we have indicated before that if there is no data that gets sent to NSFAS, for all NSFAS approved students or bursary students or loans, this inconveniences the processes that NSFAS has to embark on, and as a result, it might create a problem for the entire post-school education and training sector if NSFAS does not pay any allowances. Because we know, Ashraf, that more than 95% of TVET college students are relying on NSFAS funding, and more than 67% of university students are relying on our funding as NSFAS. Now, if we don't make these payments on time, we'll inconvenience the entire post-school education.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, now, if you don't get the money back on time, then there's another big cash flow problem for NSFAS, which will have a ripple effect back on the students once again. Let's leave that because I gather that story is going to run, unfortunately, a lot longer than maybe you had hoped. Ishmael Mnisi, the NSFAS spokesperson, right? Your comments on that and the other issues, including perhaps the biggest story of the day, that appointment of the special envoy to the USA. Let me see, Jonas. Let's get your thoughts after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right. Well, we've had lots of comments, understandably, and I'm very curious in terms of where we are to where we were to where we are now. Whether that position has got you thinking a bit differently when you've heard of the pronouncements of Jonas about Trump 5 years ago. Not that he's right or wrong, but just the fact that he's been critical of of Trump 5 years ago. How telling is that?
Hey, Ashraf, positions in government, whether it's what you call that guy who was dealing with bureaucracy, whether it's special envoy, whether it's MPs, whether it's cabinet, are used to dish out patronage and to dish out favors. So Jonas can go. I don't know whether he's qualified to do the job or not, but it is to dish out a favor from the president. Thank you. It's Bongi here.
Okay, dish out a favor. But, one part is the favor. What we're asking is whether it's the right decision. Have you got the right person? And will that position now change when we found out how critical he's been of Trump 5 years ago? Luvo in Kabeja, hello.
Hi, good day, Ashraf.
Yeah,
good to hear from you again.
Thank you. Right, go for it.
Ashraf, number one, to describe the whole thing, I would say it's a disaster to send that gentleman. A disaster. That's one. Why am I saying it's a disaster? How can you insult me 5 years ago, you're calling me a racist, and 5 years later, you're being sent to represent your country? For me, it just shows the negligence from the ANC. It just shows from the ANC the lack of great leadership, the lack of great thinkers from the ANC. I'm disgusted. It's a disaster.
Okay.
That's all I want to say, Ashraf.
Right. Luvo's made his point. A lack of leadership within the African National Congress, right? And naturally, there's more on this issue too.
Good afternoon, Azra. Good afternoon, listeners. I think this envoy is not going to do any changes. If they want to challenge Donald Trump, they must bring a white person, or they must take this guy, Mr. Kriel, who started this messes. They must take one of them. Mr. Kriel must go and fix this messes. So they send somebody like, they're just wasting our time, you understand? And they're wasting our state resources. Thank you, Patrick Nsoweto.
But Patrick, why would you undermine black people thinking we can't get a job done on this issue? Whatever it is, they have to do. Can you imagine Donald Trump saying he speaks to China, but he'll only speak to a Chinese person from India? If you get my point, that would be ridiculous.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The best way to describe the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas is worthless. It's Jacob from Jamestown.
Okay, you say worthless. Oh, my goodness. Let's get the news. Here's Greg Host. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this worthwhile news update, second arrest over Wynberg court shooting and a call for more pressure on Russia. Good day to you. Police say they've arrested a second suspect in connection with a fatal shooting of a 50-year-old man in the Wynberg Magistrates Court in Cape Town last week. The arrest follows that of a woman who was apprehended on Saturday. She made a brief appearance in the same court on a charge of murder. Her case has been postponed to the 23rd of April. The man who was a taxi owner was gunned down while inside the court building. The state says the woman was allegedly the mastermind behind the shooting, having conspired with the members of a gang to execute the man. Acting Western Cape Police Commissioner Bungani Makashala.
This morning we made second arrest and the person is being questioned, and also we have identified more people. So with time we are going to effect more arrests, and also to assist the court we have beefed up, we've increased the numbers to ensure that the threat is neutralized. So we've done that according to the threat that exists here. We have allowed our crime intelligence to do the threat assessment.
Former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo believes that a hung parliament where no single party holds a majority will help in stopping corrupt leaders from being protected. He was the guest speaker at the Nelson Mandela University's Fisheries Law Enforcement Academy Anti-Corruption Conference in the Eastern Cape.
We all agree that whistleblowers must be protected, and I hope we all agree that they must be given incentives to blow the whistle. Maybe this is easier to do in respect of whistleblowers, but there may be challenges in how protection and incentivization is done in respect of corruption resistance.
Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says the appointment of Mcebisi Jonas is aimed at accelerating the improvement in engagement between South Africa and the U.S. President Cyril Ramaphosa has earlier announced Jonas as his special envoy to the U.S. in an effort to try and rebuild South Africa's relationship with the U.S. under President Donald Trump. Magwenya says Ramaphosa has recognized the importance of the U.S.
The President has recognized the sense of urgency for us to work on enabling the resetting of the relationship between South Africa and the United States. And this appointment is targeted at that. So the process to appoint an ambassador is a separate process. Ambassadors often have bureaucratic hurdles to jump over. The special envoy does not have the burden of bureaucracy. He will be reporting directly to the President, working closely with the ministers of international relations as well as trade and industry on various specific issues that are pertinent with respect to our relationship with the United States.
The Transnet board chairperson, Andile Sanku, says a 3 billion rand investment into port terminals and infrastructure upgrades will boost efficiency and help businesses absorb rising costs. He was speaking at the Port Elizabeth container terminal where a new ship-to-shore crane was unveiled by the Transport Minister.
Is about repositioning South Africa as a global regional hub. In March, I launched the request for information that covers 5 priority rail corridors and their related ports.
That was the Transport Minister, Barbara Creasy. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, has called for Ukraine's allies to put Russia under maximum pressure to end the war. This comes amid widespread outrage over the deaths of 34 civilians killed in the deadliest Russian attack this year. Russian ballistic missiles struck the Ukrainian town of Sumy yesterday. EU foreign ministers are considering how to respond. Kallas says Russia wanted a war.
It is already 1 month into this period where Ukraine agreed to unconditional ceasefire. We haven't seen that from the Russia side. What is clear is that we need to support Ukraine more, and I'm happy to see that we already have 2/3 of my ammunition initiative together. But of course we need to do more.
The top story, police say they've now arrested a second suspect in connection with the fatal shooting of a man in the Wynberg Magistrates Court in Cape Town last week. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Ghost.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, the N1 southbound in Fourways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and Daspoort Tunnel in Pretoria's queuing at the tunnel. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, the M7 St John's Avenue queuing through central Pinetown, the N2 southbound as a stationary truck after the M41 Gateway exit, and the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, the M3 Philip Khosana Drive outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 outbound has heavy traffic towards the M5 Koeberg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
SABC Technology Business is a unit which provides services to internal and external clients. Our strategic objective is to ensure that SABC has the appropriate and reliable technological infrastructure for production, post-production, digital media content available to the public. Our range includes IP portable production studio facilities and the digitization of legacy content. Our outside broadcast vans, fully equipped to follow you anywhere and everywhere. For competitive pricing, contact Bookings Facilities at sabc.co.za.
Pressure keeps mounting and the thirst for maximum points has drastically increased. FC Union Berlin and VfB Stuttgart are in a tense battle for victory. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on FC Union Berlin versus VfB Stuttgart on Saturday, 19 April at 6:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Of course, the issue of Mcebisi Jonas is central to what drives the National Pulse today, and I'm sure you have your own thoughts on that. But by the way, the NSFAS story, where they should have paid some parts of money to the students and the bulk of it to the landlords wherever they are renting from, all went to the students, and they need to get the money back or get the students to pay directly to the landlords, and that either has happened or has not happened. You have a story about that? Does it affect you? Are you one of those students or family of one of those students, and what has happened around it? Because NSFAS has said if the students don't pay the landlords and the landlords don't get the money, they may well evict them, although the error was made by NSFAS in the first place. In the meantime, that's just a statement from Jonas, the now special envoy to the USA, saying, "I'd like to thank President Ramaphosa for entrusting me with this important but challenging role. I will do my best to promote a healthy working relationship between South Africa and the United States. I am fully cognizant of the difficulties that lie ahead, considering recent global developments. However, I believe that areas of commonality and mutual interest could be embraced to reaffirm the long-standing ties between our two countries. There are no quick fixes in such a complex situation. I appeal that, in the national interest, South Africans exercise patience and allow us time and space to engage fully with different stakeholders in the United States and South Africa. Any updates relating to our work will be communicated via the Presidency and the Department of International Relations and Cooperation of the Republic of South Africa." That comes from Mr. Mcebisi Jonas, now titled Special Envoy to the United States of America. Right, let's get some further comments. We should be getting, so some of we've got feedback from the ANC, but they can't get on air. We'll read that statement just now. We've got other political parties commenting as well. One of them is the leader of Action SA, Herman Mashaba. Herman, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse once again. Hello.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to SAFM listeners.
Thank you. I've been asking many of the listeners to give us one word to describe the news upon hearing the news of the appointment of Jonas as the special envoy. What's your one word?
Well, my take, Ashraf, I'm not a political analyst or commentator. I think one deals with these issues on an issue-by-issue basis, bearing in mind that there are consequences. I think our point of view as Action SA that the president actually rushed in making this decision. I think Mr. Jonas, fortunately, is really one of those South Africans who we've got high regard for, but he's going into a very toxic environment. We would have really preferred the president to take his time, not to really make decisions in going into that toxic environment.
Okay, so you're saying he rushed it, and just keep in mind, I mean, this is an appointment of a special envoy and not the ambassador. So, in effect, he has delayed the appointment of an ambassador, and the special envoy will be there effectively, I would think, to try and sort of quell troubled waters.
Well, the thing is, why I'm saying is that it's a toxic environment. Unfortunately, there's nothing really that South Africa could do to satisfy America as things stand. So I think any really person that really wanted to really apply logic, you had to really wait for things to cool off because unfortunately what is coming out of South Africa doesn't make sense, not only to South Africa, to the entire world community. So I think the president should have really just taken his time to really watch the development because honestly, whether you send to Mr. Jonas or you send Mr. Ashraf Garda, the situation would really remain the same. Our relationship with the United States at the moment is very fluid, it's very delicate, and something like that you don't really need to rush because there's no right or wrong. Whatever you're going to really do, America right now, it's really regarding South Africa as an enemy.
Okay, I'm reflecting on that. Ashraf Garda, special envoy to the USA. But I mean, are you saying therefore that whoever goes is on a hiding to nothing? That our country effectively is on a hiding to nothing. So best to do what? To not talk at all at the moment?
Well, yes, absolutely. Let's take our time. We have powerful nations like China who would help neutralize and bring the Americans to their senses. There are other powerful nations, the European Union and so forth. I think for us as South Africa, we don't really have to rush. We know and understand that America is a very big, huge trading partner with South Africa. But when you're going into a toxic environment, there's absolutely nothing good or right that you'll ever do. Okay. So I'd really, the president's advisors, unfortunately, really gave him the wrong advice. They did not really read the motions of what's happening right now in the United States of America.
Okay, so you're saying it's too rushed anyway for the reasons you've given. But now that the decision has been made, is Jonas then the right person anyway?
Well, I think Jonathan is really one of the respected South Africans. He served the public service with distinctions over the period he was in government. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. It's just that I think we're putting him in a toxic environment.
Okay, how then do you think, and of course, being an envoy doesn't have to be based at the USA, it could be up and down all the time and do his other work too, right? How would he then be judged, according to your understanding of being a successful special envoy on behalf of South Africa?
Well, as I keep repeating, if you're going into an environment that is toxic, that does not really want you, it doesn't matter how you're going to behave or act. The environment is very toxic, encouraged by groups like Solidarity and Kali Kriel and the team. They will fuel the environment for us. It is for that reason I believe the president's advisors actually failed to really read the mood of the current situation. Leave this matter to the Chinese. The Chinese are powerful enough to neutralize what America is doing to the international community.
All right. Now, you may or you may not be aware that once the announcement was made, then some of the media uncovered I think Sherwin Bryce-Pease from the SABC was the first one who tweeted the point that Jonas made comments about 5 years ago at the annual Ahmed Kathrada Foundation annual lecture, and amongst the issues that he spoke about, he referred to Donald Trump specifically as a racist, a homophobe, and a narcissistic right winger. Are you aware of those statements? And the point...
Yes, I was been watching the media the last 2 hours or so, and obviously came across such statements. And I think saying those statements in total good faith, not really being aware that one day he will be caught into the situation. It is for that reason that the president's advisors actually failed the president in advising.
Meaning what? They should have been able to have uncovered all of that before they confirmed his appointment.
Well, if this matter, the president makes a statement, and within an hour, the whole issue is exposed to the international community. So basically, the United States under Trump is waiting for his arrival. Will they be able to meet him? I really have some real doubts, serious doubts, and which is really very unfortunate that the president's advisors should have obviously been able to interrogate issues like this when you send someone be an ambassador or an envoy or whatever you can call the person. Send people where you do your homework regarding their relationship with that particular country.
I mean, I see Kali Kriel, no surprise, he's quick on the draw on this one. He's posted those comments already, and he's asking the question whether Jonas will be able to mend the shaky relationship between South Africa and the Trump administration.
Exactly what he started. He's enjoying it. He must be right now celebrating the poor projection of our country, because he went out to tell the world that there's genocide in this country. He went out to tell the Trump administration that there are widespread taking over of property in this country, just really misinformation. So I think here the president fell directly into that misinformation and propaganda that people like Ali Kriel and their partners wants to inflict on South Africa.
So to confirm then, notwithstanding your initial point that this issue was rushed on the one hand, but you also felt that Jonas himself is a fine person to do the job anyway, right? Would you then think that in terms of what was just been uncovered now of what happened 5 years ago could well be an own goal, and you could have a situation where, South Africa is right to appoint anybody. You don't need credentials as an envoy as compared to an ambassador, but the U.S. may have found out one way or the other to try and effectively, what do they call it, ghost him and just shun him and sort of drive him out.
Well, the thing is, Ashraf, if you look at what's happening in the United States with this executive orders that the President of the United States signs on a daily basis, they don't make sense to even right now Americans themselves. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that Mr. Jonas is going to just really be compromised by being put in a toxic environment where people don't understand where and how the United States president makes his decisions. So that's why I keep saying it. America at the moment, it's a toxic environment. South Africa should just wait and get the Chinese to normalize the situation, because my own view is that China will really be able to normalize the situation, working with the European countries, because they're also under attack. So what is happening in the United States right now, honestly, no one can ever have a sense of a comprehension of what's happening out there. So I really believe, as much as the United States is a strategic, huge trading partner of South Africa, sometimes we just have to just wait until the common sense prevails.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I was asked to be the special envoy to the USA, I would say no. I would think maybe then to pick up your cue, Herman Mashaba, that in this case here, the best form of action, and I'm looking at your party name, is actually no action. Much appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us
Thank
here.
you so much for the
on
opportunity.
The National Pulse. There we are. Lots to consider from that conversation too. So what do you make of, it was rushed, but he's a fine leader, politician, great track record. And then you find, right or wrong, he made pronouncements 5 years ago. Clearly, certain elements of South African and American society are going to make a meal of that. How do you think Trump will respond? Goodness, he responds every single day with something or the other. What's going to happen next? This is the National Pulse.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, breezing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward, just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so I welcome your thoughts, because certainly fingers on the pulse. We'll take actual calls around 5:45 onwards, but you can certainly WhatsApp us, text messages, and voice notes right away. You know the number, right? I always said just keep those numbers permanently. But by the way, you can also tweet right away. And I said you know the number, but in case you forgot, it's 061 4 104 107. And then to tweet, it's SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda. Do tweet and follow both of us. Use that hashtag, the National Pulse. Right, let's pick up another issue. You may be aware of the conviction of a person called Mohammed Amin, right? And it was convicted after being caught with over $500,000 US dollars, right? So that's the one part of it. Now, we're not getting into that case specifically, but it's an interesting thought to consider, other issues. The African Transformation Movement believe that Amin's case proves that President Ramaphosa has a case to answer, which justifies the party's decision, that's their party, the African Transformation Movement, to challenge some of the reports that cleared the president regarding the Phala Phala matter. Let's get the thoughts of Zama Nchona, the AGM national spokesperson. Thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse once again, Zama. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you and the listener.
Thank you. Right, so first of all, you are making the comparison. What then is your understanding of what happened regarding the speed of conviction with regard to Mohammed Amin?
When you consider that a case of 2020, in 2025, there is not even a filed case that is ready not even for conviction, just for cross-examination, versus a case of 2024 and some other cases that have already been closed for the same crime, because both crimes or all these crimes include the violations of PRECA. And now you sit here and say, is it because they're ordinary South Africans and the president is politically connected? And you wonder if it is just political connections that allow the president to actually enjoy this kind of protection, or there is something more. So truly...
Yeah, carry on. Go ahead.
Yes, so when you look at a 5-year period that has lapsed, and there is hardly a finger that is pointed towards the president, though we know that the owners of the reporting, because when you read PRECA 34 subsection 4E, it says the owners of the reporting is in the number of the closed cooperation. In Tabanyoni Enterprise, the president is the sole owner of that. So if he sent General Rhoda, the manager, and everybody else, and they did not actually report the matter, and from reporting to disclosure to issues around currency, the different currency being in his possession, and all the other charges that we know about, then the onus of that is in the member of the closed corporation, and therefore the president should have been held liable as much as these other individuals are held liable for the contravention of the same
Now,
law.
of course, I mean, we don't have a person from the SAPS or the NPA sitting next to us, right, to explain the differences. But, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but is it not fair to say that, each case has to be taken on its merits? It's not like, prosecuting authorities look at things on a blanket statement and say, this is what we're going to do. You have to tackle each one based upon the evidence and the merits of each case itself.
Most definitely, but there are commonalities between these cases. In possession of the owner is a large sum of money that exceeds 25,000, and they have done that without reporting it. There are commonalities between the two cases, and those include the issue of non-disclosure of that amount. There are commonalities between the two cases in that the accounting individuals must be held liable. So at the very least, because also when you look at the president's account, especially when you look at the SARS report said the president was compliant in this transaction, which was in contrary with the unprotected transaction of the Reserve Bank. The same case. On one end, he has paid the taxes for it. On one end, with a different directorate, the transaction which he paid the taxes for is unprotected because the buffaloes were not concluded. How do you pay tax on money that is not yours? So this is why we say there was a special arrangement for the president. Yes, you take each case on merit, but when you look at this one, this was a carefully constructed narrative and surroundings which then gave the president an opportunity to be cushioned from actually being prosecuted. Because when you look at these cases, the others from the president only lack the protection that the president has.
Right,
and
so,
now...
Yeah. And therefore, I mean, just the last thing, based upon where you are as ATM, besides talking to us about it on air now, I mean, what powers do you have? What would you like to pursue?
We have actually taken the public report, the public protector's report, to court so that it is overturned. We've been talking to our lawyers about the public protector and the Reserve Bank releasing those reports because everything is sealed around President Cyril Ramaphosa. After the investigation, it can't be made public because we wanted to scrutinize for ourselves what is it about those reports which then give the president this kind of protection. And also we were in court with the decision of Parliament, that decision that actually squashed the Section 89 independent report without reading a page must actually be taken, must be squashed, and the voting system and the engagement must start afresh again. So we have been moving, and we're waiting for the courts to make the final determination.
And the key part here is waiting for the courts. Appreciate your time, Zama Nshwana, the ATM national spokesperson. Do you see the way that the ATM sees it, right? And it's interesting we use the word ATM because in this case we are talking about monies, right, in big amounts. Comparing the conviction of Mohammed Amin for having over $500,000 US undeclared, in this case here, versus the Phala matter regarding the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. I'll take some of your comments after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, there's been lots of comment about the student story we covered earlier on, the ANSFAS one, the one where the money went to the students instead of to the landlords directly.
I've never seen a man try so hard to get an answer out of a non-politician. Simple answer, are the students paying? Is it the responsibility of students right now? Are they paying towards directly to the landlords? Is that the situation now? The men went about and about and about, and I don't know if you managed to get that blood out of the rock. All the best. All the best.
Well,
it's Artin
thank
Marisberg.
you.
All the best,
Thank you.
Mr. Garda.
There we are. Thank you for all the best. But I mean, you did say, I agree with you. I asked the question, are they paying? And how difficult can it be if you gave 1,000 students money to find out where they are? Because clearly there's a track record of each one. They said, waiting for a comprehensive report. Faisal in the Eastern Cape. Faisal, good chatting to you. Hi. Faisal, you're live on the air. Hello.
Hello, Assalam. Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Good to connect with you. Go for it.
Fine, Ashraf, Eastern Cape. Ashraf, you know, I want to comment about this Zamanchola, this ATM member.
Yeah.
He trying to fool the public. These are two different cases. Why trying to put these two together? Because each case is treated differently. We don't know this moment. I mean, he pleaded guilty. Or if he pleaded guilty, the case will take his swift. The case will complete very quickly because he pleaded guilty. Why is not asking? How come so thousands of people have been convicted? Jacob Zuma's case is still is not finalized. Why is not asking that question?
All right. Well, I mean, I agree with you. That is a point that I made as well. It's very difficult on air here to assume that everything is the same.
If anybody, people like to mix cases. If somebody pleads guilty, tomorrow the thing can be over. We don't know. He must bring all those facts. Now you want to confuse people coming in the public here because he's an ATM member. And I tell ATM is a doomsday party, man. What is who's ATM? You know? You must come with facts.
No, but you see, the doomsday party is also, you complaining about the party. It's not about the party. But it's not about the party. If he's got a point of view, he's got a point of view, whether they got 1% of the vote or 50% of the vote. Yeah. Okay, Faisal.
He's saying it's good politics, man.
All right, Faisal's made his point.
These are two different things, Ashraf.
All right, you made your point, Faisal. You've heard it, and we've heard it very clearly. Good to connect with you. Got us thinking. And maybe that's the point, isn't it? We all have views. Sometimes we differ. What's great is we leave the show at the end of the day and it's like, wow, did you listen to what so-and-so said? So in this case, like, what did Faisal say? Or the ATM representative or the ANSFOS representative? Right, what about Greg House and the news headlines?
Thank you. I shall have a quick look at the headlines. Police say they've arrested a second suspect in connection with the fatal shooting of a man in the Wynberg Magistrates Court in Cape Town. The former Chief Justice believes a hung parliament where no single party holds a majority will help in stopping corrupt leaders. And thousands of people have been forced to flee Sudan's largest refugee camp after a coordinated attack by members of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria is a crash before Rigel Avenue, the N1 southbound in Midrand, a crash at Buccleuch interchange, and the M2 eastbound has delays towards Cleveland Road exit. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, the M7 St John's Avenue queuing through Central Pinetown, and the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Coburg interchange. The N2 inbound has a crash reported at the airport exit, and then Highlands Drive is closed in Mitchell's Plain between Marydale and AZ Berman, so expect delays and diversions. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Tumi, what are we talking about?
Well, we start things off with rugby, where the Sharks have been boosted by the return of Eben Etzebeth, Aphelele Fassi and Lukhanyo Ama for the Vodacom United Rugby Championship Tour that starts on Friday night's round 15 game against Edinburgh, followed by Ulster in Belfast a week later. Etzebeth has been out of rugby since the 8th of December. In other words, he's been out for 4 months, while Fassi has been training with the Sharks for the last month after recovering from injury he sustained playing for the Sharks against the Stormers in Cape Town just after Christmas, and I'm also returning to add the midfield options. Meanwhile, focus now shifts to the United Rugby Championship for the Bulls, where they occupy third positions on the standings, and with a number of experienced players back in the fold, Jake White says that team selection will be a welcome headache.
They'll enjoy the fact that they got some good game time and they played well. There'll be a huge amount of disappointment, and all I can expect next week is that we kick on from the second half in terms of what we did today, because it's not going to get any easier. Munster away, and then Glasgow, who are the reigning champions of URC. Those are the next 2 weekends we have. So You know, it's not like it's going to get any easier for us as a group.
In cricket, 3 youth internationals have earned the maiden Proteas women ODI call-ups for the Tri-Series hosts against Sri Lanka and India. The series takes place from the 27th of April to the 11th of May, with all matches being held at the R. Premadasa International Cricket Stadium in Colombo. SA Under-19 stars Karabo Mesuya and Seshni Naidu, who featured in this year's Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup, will look to add to their T20 caps, and they're joined by uncapped all-rounder Mine Smith, who was a travelling reserve at last year's Women's T20 World Cup. In Netball South Africa President Cecilia Molokwane will run for a third term as she approaches her final year in the office. The NSA board election set for October will see Molokwane once again vying for the top position in South African netball. Meanwhile, in football, Pirates and Chiefs will face off for the first time in a domestic cup final in 11 years since their last meeting in the MTN 8 final in 2014. Like back then, the two teams will return to Moses Mabhida Stadium on the 10th of next month. And Jose Rivero has never lost a cup final he has participated in, and he's addressed a number of questions about his confidence going into the final.
Confidence is something that you can apply to anything else in life. If you go through something and you run away victorious, successful, the next time that you find yourself in the next scenario, you already know that you are capable to do it. Nobody needs to convince you that you are capable to do it. I don't need to convince my players as a coach that they are capable, that they have the capacity, that they are good enough, you know. Knowing that in this type of games there's always going to be another team, an opponent that want the same thing that you and want it badly, and you have to do a lot of things to be successful. We play actually our first Nedbank Cup final. It was Sekhukhune United. We start the game 1-0 down. We managed to change the result. We played Mamelodi Sundowns last year. We start the game 1-0 down. We managed to change the result during the 90 minutes. We played one final early this season against Stellenbosch. We start the game losing 1-0. We managed to change the result in the last part of the game as well. And that's something that speaks volumes about the character of the team and the confidence. I'm going again one more time to the confidence. The team knows that our best performance is enough to win the games, and that's what we are looking for all the time.
Elsewhere, Luka Modric is set to become new minority owner at Swansea. Modric will become one of the owners of the championship club as the deal has been agreed, and this does not affect his pro career as he wants to continue playing for Real Madrid again, as reported last month. In motorsport, Jorge Martin will remain in hospital under observation for several days after fracturing 6 ribs during a crash at the Qatar GP. Martin underwent a CT scan that showed an increase in the pneumothorax that will make it necessary to place a drainage in aspiration. This was the Spaniard's first race weekend of the season. This is after missing the first 3 of the year due to a pre-season training injury. Then in athletics, Glenrose Xaba remains confident that she will achieve her goal of breaking her own national women's 10-kilometer record of 31 minutes 12 seconds this year. Xaba finished 3rd at the Absa Ranyo City Gqeberha 10-kilometer on Sunday, clocking a time of 31:56. And although Xaba had aimed for a sub-31, she says her tight race schedule, which included 5 previous races before the Gqeberha event, limited her preparation time.
I'm feeling very happy about my run today because I went well, but after 5K I saw that I'm out to SA record. Just keep on maintaining because my legs was a bit stiff, so the body was not responding very well the way I was looking forward. But I think because I never done so much training, I was keep on racing. I did not even have 1 week before to come to Gqeberha to train. So I'm very happy about the time. Shows that I'm consistent. The one is still on my legs. The SA record, I can run it if I can have 2 weeks of rest or 1 week of rest and train very well and very hard. Just going to the drawing board, and that means it's good because I'm not in my peak yet. I know what time I'm peaking on.
On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
Are we all chill now? Wait, you got a show coming up, man?
Yes,
So
there's
why
a
can't
show.
you promote your show?
Oh, yes, the show coming up from 7 till 8. We are basically looking at the weekend that was. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts with regards to their highlight sporting match, perhaps key player of the weekend.
I just know the amount of people wearing a yellow top.
Sure.
Even if there's no badges, still wearing yellow.
Yeah.
Somehow they shocked another team with yellow. So they're all
There's someone
making their
actually
point.
wearing a Kaiser Chiefs
there we
jersey,
are.
to be exact, in the office. But yeah, I'll be back again on Top Sport from 7 till 8.
I did see someone wear a Man United top today, and I was amazed.
Oh, yes, you did say that.
I felt sorry.
Why are you not wearing your Man
Why
United
would I wear?
jersey?
Do I ever wear any tops here? I'm waiting for these Springbok tops and the cricket team, and you getting it all, and I get nothing.
No, we need to organize
So
you.
there we are. I mean, hint, hint.
No.
You better say goodbye.
We're going to organize you one. With that said, ke natume kgapela, Modimo ke yo.
Outsurance knows South Africans are feeling the pinch, so you've been looking for ways to save money. You could cut corners with things like that coffee brand you love. Or you could go the easy way, where you could save money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Let's hear what real Outsurance clients have to say.
I saved 455 Rand. It was quick and easy.
I'm saving 411 Rand a month. Outsurance helping me save money.
That saving is actually saving my paycheck. Leave all the insurances and come to Outsurance.
It was fast, easy, and he gave me the best quote. My savings is 644 Rand. Come join Outsurance and save some money.
Make today the day you switch and save. And SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Meet Maria. Meet her family, the Ramirez. One wrong step and they will have you swimming with the fishes. Meet Amadeo, a trained lawyer and member of the rival business clan, the Mateus. The two fall in love, and Maria's dreams of a happily ever after change when Madeo is murdered at their wedding. Their daughter, Jo, despises her mother's humble beginnings and will do anything to steal all of Maria's fortune. This is the world of Sweet Diva. Airs weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, and of course, Jimmy Muya hosts the SFM Market Update from 6 to 7. It was really to set the scene, Jimmy. You've got a story about electricity options.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I certainly have a story. Before I get into the story about electricity, just for your reference and for Tubi's reference, in a Springbok shirt, I'm a size medium, so thanks very much for that. I'll send you my postal details.
I thought that's what you're wearing now.
No, like you, I've also been forgotten in this conversation. So perhaps we should have conversations. Perhaps we'll reach out to Sean Summers and the team at Pick and Pay, or even Mary Villagazi and the team at FNB, and see if we can erase that.
You seem to be very connected. So why am I asking somebody else? There we are. And while you're at it, let's get a green jacket for the Augusta National as well. I'll take that too. Bye.
There we go. That would be quite lovely. But what we are looking at is going to be the electricity conversation, of course. It looks as though there has been some movement on the part of alternative electricity providers. There have been at least 10 new alternative providers approved to sell electricity. So I think we're getting to an interesting time in our journey where we might find ourselves one day not having to buy electricity directly from Eskom, as there will be other players in the space that can sell electricity to private citizens. I'm going to speak to Chris Yelland around that. He's, of course, an independent energy analyst and frequently comes up on your show and my show. We're going to get a sense of what that means for the landscape. and where we go to from an electricity buying point of view. Then we've also got a conversation with Chief Economist at Rand Merchant Bank, Azaya Mhlanga, around the government's looking to reconsider the municipal funding model. It looks as though every year municipalities come and ask the government for money, they get the government, and at the end of every year there's money that's returned to the government. So we're going to look at how that's going to potentially affect the funding model and if there is a better funding model out there that can be used. Then we've got a conversation with the team at Sanlam around how to make long-term investment decisions in uncertain times. We're navigating very uncertain times where policy changes 1 hour at a time in some cases, and we're going to look at that and see how it's impacting your investment decisions and your investment philosophies. Sanlam's going to join me for that conversation, and then we're going to wrap up the show with a personal finance segment. This Monday is Personal Finance Monday, not the turn of our digital drive, and we're going to be taking a look at funeral cover and understanding some of the intricacies around that. But before we get to all of that, the markets have had certainly quite a better start to the week than we've seen in weeks of late. And this week today was a very positive day on the front of the global markets. If we look at equity markets, all equity markets are in the green, including South African markets. Hong Kong, the biggest gainer in Asian markets, up 2.2%. The DAX in Germany, the biggest gainer in European markets, up 3%. But the CAC 40 and the FTSE 100, in the case of the French and London indices respectively, weren't too far behind, around 2.5% in the green in each case there. The Nasdaq is up 1.2%, the S&P's up 1%, South Africa's markets were up 2.6% on the all-share and the top 40, and that's because industrials were up 3.4%, financials were up 4.6%, and we can completely ignore the fact that resources were down almost a 4%. So good day on the equity front, but it gets even better. The rand is below 19 rand against the US dollar, 18 rand 87 at the moment. It is below 25 rand against the British pound, 24 rand 87. Still above 21 rand against the euro at 21 rand 45, sadly, but below 12 rand against the Australian dollar at 11 rand and 92. Bitcoin is moving as well, $84,600 odd a Bitcoin, or in rand terms 1.58 million rands. It was above 1.6 million at one stage as well, so it looks like it is recovering quite nicely there. If we look at commodities before we go, platinum and palladium 950, 960-ish. Both of them around the $960 mark. If we look at Brent crude, $65.21 a barrel. Not too happy with the increase there, but still below $70 a barrel. So that's a good thing for us. Gold price, $3,201 a fine ounce. So holding above that 3,200 level. Obviously, the risk sentiment in the market fueling a lot of the flurry to markets like the gold price. But we'll keep an eye on this. We'll have lots to discuss a little later on. A lot of it is going to be centered around the walk back from a tariff perspective. I've got Gary Boyson on markets with me tonight to take a look at that, but we'll be back at 6 o'clock. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. And size medium, let me just scribble it down. Size medium Springboks. Okay, got that.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a Health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours, make a difference.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, it's time for your comments because I really want to get, sense of your fingers on the pulse. What is it that you're really feeling, okay? So we go to Annandale. We hardly ever go to Annandale. We need to do that. Joburg South, right? Imboneni in Annandale. Go for it. You want to comment about Jonas?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Asa, for taking my call. And one of the best show in Mzansi.
You're very, very kind, and also put your town or your suburb on the map, right? You've done that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Go
correctly
for it.
so. Yeah, look, Asaf, people have spoken about Jonas Mcebisi. For my side, and which South Africans will agree with, is man of integrity. We've seen him during his term in the former Jacob Zuma government, being in the situation where he was given a bag of money and he never allowed it. So it's a man of ethics. And I believe as he's been chosen, they've got a lot of trust on him, as we've seen him, what he has done to the Republic of South Africa by refusing to take money in the government of former President Zuma. Therefore, taking him to United States, I don't think President Trump is a pit bull. In other words, I'm trying to say that it's not horrible as we think via media and all those kind of things. And I think Jonas will get a good welcome in the United States of America. Let us not be emotional to what we have seen, and let us not be emotional to a great extent whereby we don't respect the United States based on the fact what South Africa is doing. South Africa, remember, everything we do, we negotiate. When we get into this democracy, we negotiate a lot and we come to agreement. So I think his experience will indeed ensure that he came back with good news for the Republic of South Africa. And therefore, Asaf, I want to put this into record to say that whatever we've seen, the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, president of Ukraine, it doesn't constitute that Trump, any person will come to his office, he will be treating them badly. Depend on the nature of the person, how you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hear you, and I think I've heard you out, but the truth is, Trump has been erratic. The point is he can make decisions. He's made some very, very erratic statements and decisions about not just South Africa, but many other countries in the world. So why would you think he's not going to be erratic tomorrow morning? I mean, that's his style.
Yeah, look. For me, based on the communication skills, it depends on the nature of a person when he look at you, whether he's scaring you or not. But for Jonas, I think I'll come back to your show again. I hope that and believe that Jonas is going to do well on behalf of this country. And therefore, Trump, you must just listen to him, because sometimes he can interrupt you when you are on the platform or just to make you to get lost on the conversation. So the other thing that you have to do, Jonas, is just to listen to Trump and answer and be firm and stood firm, and he must not allow to be intimidated by Trump.
All right, got that. Don't be intimidated by Trump. But you see, that's the contradiction. The only reason we're talking about intimidation is because it's Donald Trump and what he's already said and done in the first place. Imboneni, thanks for that. From Annandale, we'll talk to you again soon. We got from Annandale to Parktown, both in the Johannesburg area. Voyizwa, go for it. Hello.
Yes, Ashraf, thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
You know what? I have a feeling that Mkhabisi is going to go through the same, way that Zelensky went through. He's going to encounter the same thing, because I think the president should have just kept quiet. Why are we cherishing abuse from the?
But wait, when you say you should have kept quiet about what? You mean not appoint an envoy?
No, yes, not appoint an envoy. What are we begging? What are we begging? What is our main issue? What are we begging from the Americans? They actually benefiting from African countries and ourselves worse, more than we are benefiting from them.
Okay.
This money that you say we're giving them so much money, it's not giving us so much money. There is no money that is given for free. No?
Well, I mean, there's the historical issues, but there are big examples of Americans
issues
funding.
On what? We must come on if the day they are ready, they'll come on the table.
Okay.
Let's leave them.
All right. For you, Rizwa, you've made your point. Hear you from Parktown. We go to Romeo in the Northwest. Romeo on Jonas, not on Juliet, Jonas. Romeo, go for it. Hello.
Yes, Ashraf, how are you doing?
I'm good indeed, right? What's your point?
My point is that whether you send Mr. Jonas or you send Claudia Mutsweni into the United States, it's not about who you're sending there. It is actually about us massaging the AfriForum's objectives or what they want. And that is to make sure that the issue, because when it comes to South Africa, Ashraf, I hear you most of the time, you'd say, no, but it's not only South Africa, it's the rest of the world. But when it comes to South Africa, Trump is very specific that he's got a problem with our radical policies. Now, if we can start making sure that we tone down on policies, that is the only way we are going to get Trump to toe the line of our country.
That's the only way we're going to get them to toe the line. Let's see. Who knows really what Trump's thinking on a Monday or on a Tuesday? But I hear you. I mean, you know that. Thanks for that, Romeo. Right?
All right, Joshua.
I mean, seriously. Okay. Malesela, and then not just Trump, Elon Musk as well. I mean, seriously. Malesela and Limpopo, let's get your thoughts.
Evening, Ashraf. Ashraf, I want to talk a little bit about what we're all talking about, but then I want to focus mostly on Mark from Cape Town earlier today. I don't know
who's Mark from Cape Town. I don't know who's Mark. Sorry.
You spoke to, is it Mark or Mike from Cape Town earlier today?
Not today.
He was comparing Percy Jonas and Ronaldo House, saying that if
I see that was
yes,
Ronaldo.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Ronaldo House. Yes. So you can compare the two people. Those are two people in different leagues, in different rounds of leadership. I mean, like comparing House and Jonas, even though they said whatever they said, but then now what Percy Jonas said was him criticizing Trump based on what Trump is portrays himself as. Unlike what House said in regards to black people, lambasting black people, calling them all kinds of funny names. But then going back to the topic, we the general public see it as a blunder for the president to appoint Mr. Jonas because of what he said previously. But honestly speaking, I think the president knows what he's doing. He has put his mind to it. And I think we should just look at the space and trust that all shall come to pass and shall be well.
Well, you've made your point to Malesela. Thank you for that, and saying no comparison really between the two. And I actually agree. In fact, that's what I told him as well when he sent that voice note. Right? Okay, let's pick up some other thoughts and even more comments about the Anna's for Students story.
Hi.
Okay, we'll get to the call. Lucas, hello.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Go for it.
I'm good. Oh, look, Ashraf, me, I'm against about this thing of Percy Jonas for appointment to be convoy of South Africa there by the United States. You see. So, Ashraf, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I hear people saying he has done good job in previous administration.
Yeah.
And what I've seen over there, I'm questioning that what kind of a good job, because he was serving under that administration of 9 wasted years, you see. So for me, when I look there by the Donald Trump, the issue is not about who come and be the issue is about he's against these ANC policies.
Yeah.
And
okay.
he knows exactly that we as South Africans, we have rejected that policies.
But not everybody. I mean, listen, the last election, 40% people voted for the ANC, so it's not just you as the whole country. Lucas, we need to move on. Point taken. Lucas in Chwan is saying, in fact, it's about the ANC. Let's get some voice notes quickly before we wrap up.
Good afternoon. There are students who haven't received any of the funds. Can you please ask what will happen with them who are in universities? They haven't yet received their funds, nothing at all. So what is it that is going to happen with them?
Okay, I don't know about that one. I mean, we were talking about students who receive too much, actually.
Azar Ashraf, Liston PMB. I don't know why we're babysitting adults, people who've passed their matric and are now studying. If they choose to use their money for accommodation on something else, then the landlords should report them to NSFAS and then their funding can be withdrawn. It's as simple as that.
Well, I don't know if we're babysitting them. I mean, we're just reacting to what actually happened and NSFAS effectively owning up to it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I sometimes, I feel so bad to be a South African. When you listen to some of the callers in this radio station, they are so negative with everything. With everything. Now the president has appointed a black person to go to America to go and represent the envoy there. Now they are complaining they want the white person. What's wrong with these black people, especially our black people who are phoning in this station? They are so negative. Jeebus.
Okay, and the last one regarding the first story we had about the survey that puts the ANC into big trouble.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Makwarela Chinyazo from Thohoyandou. You know what, Ashraf? The problems with that surveys or those polls that are conducted is that they only conduct that surveys amongst the few peoples, only in urban city, and that does not reflect the views of the general population. They don't go to rural villages, which is why I'm disputing that views of that analyst. It is totally wrong. Right. That is not the view of the general population. He mustn't come here and tell us lies.
Okay, you've got all the time to dispute it until the next election. Then we'll see what happens. That's the show. Thanks for engaging. Couldn't play all the calls, couldn't play all the voice notes. Sometimes we do that. There's just so much happening. My apology for that, but appreciate you commenting. You can continue, by the way, commenting even now on our Twitter feed, Take SAFM Radio, and myself, because the National Pulse is 24/7, so I'd love to engage with you even there. But that's the show from the entire team putting it all together, and I know that Temba and Keys have been particularly busy around those issues, and Vusani's been putting up some of the podcasts as well, so for all of us, really, thank you. We'll do it again tomorrow. Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. I was going to say 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Hurst.
Thank you, Ashraf. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Another arrest over Wynberg court shooting in Jonas's US appointment is welcomed. Good evening. Police say they've arrested a second suspect in connection with the fatal shooting of a 50-year-old man in the Wynberg Magistrates Court in Cape Town last week. The arrest follows that of a woman who was apprehended on Saturday. She made a brief appearance in the same court on a charge of murder. Her case has been postponed to the 23rd of April. The man who was a taxi owner was gunned down while inside the court building. The state says the woman was allegedly the mastermind behind the shooting, having conspired with members of a gang to execute the man. Acting Western Cape Police Commissioner Bungani Magdreshalala.
This morning,